Sorry to hear that.
Is that the great Octavius?
It better be. Not sure who else it would be. So it is coming through the mic then, right?
It is indeed.
Okay, good. Phew. I thought I set it up right, but there's always that moment where it's infrequent enough where I go, oh, did I flip this switch to on? Oh, wait, I hit that button. Oh, okay. Why isn't this working? Oh, there we go. So I got it right this time, and that confused me.
I got it right the first time. What the hell?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. It's like, wait a minute. This is going way too easily. And I remembered that I had to, once it starts to launch the first time, it gets stuck. So I have to refresh it right away.
Oh, sure.
Stuff like that. Because otherwise I sit there and wait. And I go, man, this isn't working. Why isn't this? Oh, wait, hang on.
Give me just one moment.
Yep.
I had to turn the dehumidifier off.
Yeah, I did a similar thing before I launched.
How's the flooding in Milwaukee?
As far as I know, citywide, there's nothing really significant that I've heard of so far, which is politely odd. That said, I'm just parking at work on Monday. My phone starts ringing, which is weird enough.
Yeah.
Because it's one of my fellow workmates, and I'm like, okay, they're going to be texting. Normally they would text me. Why are they calling me? So it's like, are you almost here? I'm parking, so that qualifies as yes. And so we had some flooding over the weekend. I'm like, okay. And I'm thinking, well, we had a lot of rain. We had all the snow built up. We got some water in. What else is new? No,
right.
That's not what happened.
Oh,
apparently, because we've got two main levels in the building. Technically, we refer to where I am as the basement. It doesn't look like a basement because there's all these windows. It's on a hill.
Sure.
So, but where you walk in to the building, I have to go downstairs to get to where I am. So, apparently what happened was one of at least the story that's going around is one of the urinals up on the first floor on our end of the building got stuck in the on position on the flush.
Yeah.
At some point, they're assuming because the last people were in there on Friday, and nobody noticed anything because there was nobody there until sometime Sunday when the motion sensors went off because the ceiling tiles started to fall.
Oh God.
Downstairs.
Oh,
and wow. I'm like, oh, so I walk in and they're already, they had already come in and sure. started, trying to fix it up a little bit and move some stuff around so I'm immediately kind of in the on position. More so than I probably have any right to be, but still at that point I'm just like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. And I'm like, and it's wet and it smells and things.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, this looks like a real safe work environment. And then I realized that like one of the, sarcastic and loud too, not not just sarcastic and loud, as apparently like one of the main bosses is walking by. I'm like, you know what? He knows. What am I telling him that he don't already know? He was probably, I think they already told me he was there, Sunday, so it didn't matter. The best part of this is that the epicenter of this falling down was right over my cube.
Of course.
And I'm like, oh, okay. And they've got like plastic over everything at that point. They'd moved all the computer equipment. The laptop, I didn't take it home because I didn't need it last weekend. And so it was sitting there. So I got a new laptop out of it. I got a new phone. I got a new headset for the phone because all that was, I got a sit to stand desk and I had it like part way up yet.
Sure. Yeah.
So apparently what it was kind of doing was like hitting on the edge of that or real near that and just kind of sprayed a little bit. But like the office is right next to mine weren't affected really badly. It was like mine
Sure.
and one other one, so there was
It
some stuff, but it could have been a lot worse. And I'm like, I had just cleaned my desk last week, so a lot of the stuff was already put away. It wasn't too bad.
Sure.
But I kind of poked my head under the plastic. I went, yeah, it smells like a urinal in there. Great.
Yeah, that's the bad part, is the fact that it was a urinal, so you got the extra smell going on.
Yeah, and it was mostly clean because it was mostly just in the flush, but there was still that little whatever that hit at that point. So it soaked in, and like I said then too, I was like, who they don't really, it's quote unquote relatively clean. We're not even sure how often that the cleaners come in and vacuum, let alone
Sure.
anything else. So I'm like, who knows what this flushed out of the carpet and everything nearby. So they ended up there's like down the hall, there's a conference/training room that's got kind of the desks and everything. So
Sure.
we all moved down there and we've been on top of each other for the whole week.
Of
So
course.
that became its own entertainment as the week is gone for just various reasons. Just like, thank you. You're finding ways to make this worse for me. This is beautiful. Everybody's just so like today they've come in and kind of checked on us and like, yeah, okay, if this goes well, like the boss for the facility came in and like earlier in the week, he goes, if everything goes well, I mean, you might only be stuck in here for a week. And we're like, okay, that'd be fine. And then today I wander down to Tent City and I'm like, oh, because I know they're working on it. They're like, okay, they'll only take the drywall that they need to take off the wall that was right there. Because our, the lower level bathrooms are right above those because plumbing. That's how that works.
Yeah.
And I go and look behind the plastic and I'm like, yeah, they took the drywall out. That must be affected. That would be all of it on this side of the wall. That's not reassuring. So, they're like, oh, so he popped in again. He's like, yeah, they got to do this and they got to do that. And the one supervisor went on and I'm like, because at one point they're like, well, it could be 2 or 3 weeks. Hopefully it'll only be a week. I'm like, it's going to be 2 or 3 weeks. I'm going to throw a shoe at one of these fools.
You know how that's going to go. It's going to be, 2 or 3 weeks.
Then my buddy that ended up, taking up stock next to me, kind of not directly next to me, but like just across the little mini aisles, he ends up getting a viral infection. So
no.
He was out for the whole week. So I'm, not that this is the worst thing in the world or anything like that, but I'm in this room and it's all these women that are starting to get on each other's nerves.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I'm the only dude left because my buddy is out sick. So, and then and then the supervisors that normally would pop in and go to their little office and be, set aside, they've decided that they have to sit with us.
Oh.
They have offices in another facility.
Oh, but they're still sitting with you.
So they have an office in another facility and in our facility. They've decided they're going to sit with us. So the only time we were quote unquote unsupervised was this morning before the one showed up because they had like a meeting or something in Milwaukee. So it's like, okay, we basically see you like for 10 minutes sometimes, or maybe an hour during the course of a week, cumulatively. And now you're right on top of us. Gee, what are you up to? And then 2, one of them that nobody likes, as it turns out, because we're all on top of it, we've got people in other departments going, we don't like her either. She's obnoxious and she doesn't do this. And she just tries to make people, make herself look good at other people's expense and everything like that. Has recently when we went through reviews, had criticized some of the people I work with for some of the sassiness that we can get up to. That's not, somebody complained about, one of those type of deals.
Yeah.
And they managed to roll off a sassiness yesterday that completely, we all just got to the point where I tried to derail it partway through. Like, no, don't do this. And it didn't click.
Yeah.
It was, because my one other friend's like, oh, trying to be nice, trying to be friendly. Oh, we're kind of wearing the same color shirt today. And she's like, no, they're different. And yours is all sassy and blah, and starts commenting on like the quality of it. And how she, you look like you're trying to catch something. And I went, oh, in my head, I'm like, oh my God, really? I mean, it's not like she's got some shirt on where it's cut, there's everything's
Right.
covered.
Yeah.
There's not even that little divot at the top, where the neckline hits where
Sure.
you can see any. And I'm like, yeah, she's catching Pokemon. Trying to catch Pokemon. Clearly, I'm like, let's, like kind of like giving you this lifeline, and she's, starts sassing. Oh, just walking down. I'm gonna sass your little booty over there for the guys working on the thing.
Oh,
I can't. I can't. I got a man that's got a pension, and she was trying to. I honestly think she was trying to be funny and sassy and trying to. Hi, we're gonna have a little. And I'm like, and part of the problem is said young lady who she's talking to like just broke up with her boyfriend like 2-3 weeks ago.
Oh no, so that's fresh. Yeah,
it's like, and it's considered to be a known situation, so it's not like hi, I just put my foot in my mouth accident, and it's just like so long story short, I'll probably be talking with HR next week because I'll be having to provide a statement.
Provide a statement, yes.
Yeah. Because I had to help formulate the email that went, and it's like, okay, I'm so sorry that happened. It took me a while to formulate the response was like, I'm so sorry. It took me a while to formulate a response. When you want to talk?
Yeah. Joys of office politics.
Fun times.
Yeah.
And then you've had your fun times, and I'm having my fun times.
Oh yeah.
My one friend, that I perform with and travel with a little bit, she was having fun times because they locked down those planes this week because of the accidents.
Oh yeah. The 737s.
The Airbuses. It's just the one style of the 737, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
And they were planning to leave tomorrow to go to California, like her and her family, her folks, and everything.
Sure.
So I'm like, it's okay. There's plenty of days left. Just it'll all work out. And then like the next day, we got the email. They canceled our flight. Well, and then like her dad sorts it out. So now they're leaving on Sunday. And I'm like, okay. And then she texts me like an hour ago and goes, because her and one of her friends are out watching some of her other friends be silly. And she goes, yep. So just got the call that they're taking my dad to the hospital because they think he's having a heart attack. And I'm like,
oh no.
Well, this week's just getting better for everybody, isn't it? This is why we drink.
This is why we drink. And on that note, there we go.
Yeah, I just took a sip after I did that too.
They didn't they stopped selling them at Wally at Quick Trip, but my cousin, because after Grandpa's funeral today, we went over to my cousin's house for a while just to shoot the shit. And, he found out I liked Not Your Father's Mountain Ale.
Right.
He's like, oh, I got one of them 24-ounce cans yet. I'm like, you do? Really?
Do you not want it anymore? Because I'll take it for you.
Because I told him I like it. He doesn't quite like it. He only drinks it when he doesn't have any other beer or anything. So he's like, here. And then he gave me a random can of Not Your Father's root beer. And then he gave me a random bottle of Not Your Mother's apple pie. And I'm like, what the hell?
They've got a lot of those now.
Oh, they've got like 8 of them. And
there's a whole crazy bunch of them. Yeah, I see them. I haven't tried most of them, but I see them always there.
The strawberry rhubarb is really, really sweet, as you can imagine. The apple pie is pretty good. It's got that apple cinnamon flavor to it. It goes really good over ice cream.
Oh,
so
yeah.
The Not Your Father's root beer.
No doubt.
I haven't tried the fruit punch or the orange because I'm not sure if I'm that venturous because those are a little too fruit,
Okay, I could see that. I drink a lot of fruit punch like Gatorade flavors, so if it's that wouldn't be so bad.
Yeah, if they had like single bottles or something for me to try, I might. But I don't want to spend the $8 or whatever for the
and get 6 of them and then go, nah, I don't even want to finish this one. Yeah.
So I've been leery about that. And then they also had Not Your Mother's iced tea, which I haven't tried. I've not been too impressed with hard iced teas, but I'm not a huge beer drinker. But the Not Your Father's line of stuff is usually really good. It's still the best root beer out there, I think, for the hard root beers, because they actually make it. For me, it tastes like they make root beer with alcohol and not making beer with root beer flavor, if that
Right.
makes sense.
No, that totally makes sense. Yeah. They're making a soda that gets, alcoholic rather than
Right.
yeah.
Because
Because even with beer flavors, sometimes there's beers that are brewed with certain ingredients to give them a flavor, and then there's like beers where they make a beer and then they add in the flavor after.
right.
And it's like sometimes the adding it'll work, and sometimes I go, yeah, that's why this other one is better than this one for me.
Yeah, we was it we did try over at our friends though. They had it, and Jill says it's dangerous, and I agree. It's like chocolate wine, and I did.
Chocolate wine?
It's a chocolate flavored wine, which on the surface it sounds weird, but we tried it. We're like, that's dangerous
I could see that.
because it tastes very chocolatey.
Yeah.
No wine or alcohol flavor in it
And
at
that's
all, but
'cause it's nothing to slow you down then. Yeah.
it's still got the potency of wine. So we're just like, yeah.
What did we have the other week? What the heck was it called? That might have been the Snap Crackle, and I forget what it was. It was like a play. I want to say the title of it was a play off of like Snap Crackle and Pop, but they changed
Sure.
like the
Yeah.
last word, or it was Rice Krispie Treat or something. I don't
Mhm.
remember. And it's like, oh, Coca Nibs and blah and everything. It's a beer, but it's
Sure.
got all these different. And I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
usually chocolate coffee notes are things I gravitate to anyway. So darker, porters and things. More crack this open, and I'm like, that taste is familiar. It's not beer, but that's a familiar taste. And it took to the point where like we gave some to my buddy's wife Amy, who does not care for most beer type. So if we get anything that strays far enough away, we go, okay, here's the test. Will Amy drink it and not make the face? Because that's the running gag, is that there's the Amy face, is the strong alcohol. She drinks a lot of wine. There's certain beers she can drink a little of and mix things fine. And then there's like, we'll do a shot, and then she does everything
Yeah.
sours up face. So we hand her a little taste of it, and she goes, oh no, that's good. And at some point in there, I went, oh, that's why I haven't had this flavor. I haven't had this taste for a while. I said, it's quick. It's chocolate quick.
Oh my God.
It tasted like that, to the point where like, George tries. He goes, yeah, that's weird. No, didn't have a beer taste. Didn't have an alcoholic taste really to it. It just tasted like quick.
Like chocolate quick. Ooh.
And it was some weird special one-off. I'm not going to get another bottle, but it was like, crap. It's a good thing we don't have more of this. This would all be drunk, and then I wouldn't be going anywhere.
Well, we went to only in Wisconsin, right? We have here on campus, they have it every year called Taste of Wisconsin.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I saw you said something about that.
Yeah, you pay like, I think it was like $30 a ticket, which people might go, oh my God. But I'm like,
that's not bad at all.
It's $30 a ticket. You go there, and they usually have at least 24 different booths of various distilleries, breweries, and food places from around Wisconsin and from local restaurants.
Okay. No, I go to things. I'll go into something like that next month. Yeah.
It's like zoo a la carte in Milwaukee. You have all these, but and they hold it at the DUC over there, the university center. So of course, a lot of college kids get it because you get a little glass.
Yeah.
And you can have as many samples as you want.
Dude, you have no clue how many of those little glasses I got. I don't know, but I know what you're talking about. I know, unfortunately, perhaps way too well what you're talking about, the type of thing. Yes.
Yes. So, so we're there, and it's a various ages, of course, because some people show up, but we're there, and we hadn't been there for a couple of years, but we were surprised at first until we realized, wait a minute, college campus, this thing runs about 3 hours.
Okay.
Unlimited alcohol in small glasses.
Yep.
Okay, I can see why all the campus kids are here.
Yep.
Like $30, all you can drink. And then there's food, of course, too, as long as it lasts.
Yeah.
So there's samples of Polito's Pizza is there. And there's a lot of like different like cheese places. There's 2 cheese places that were there this year. And, had beef sticks as
yeah,
well.
yes.
Various locations. So, yeah, and bakery stuff. So you get a lot of food too.
Yeah.
Uh,
Stein
and
and Dine that I'm going to next month is closer to that, where the mix is a little bit better between the food and the drink.
right, and so we went there this year, and it was a lot of fun as always. The mayor was there and such because it's Stevens Point, so
Sure.
it's a big city, but yet a small town. But long story short, the reason I was there is there's a family, a Sherrill family, who own a lot of businesses in town.
Okay.
And two of the younger brothers of the family have started a place called Northern Oasis Spirits.
Ooh.
And I'm not a shill or anything, but what I
No.
got to say is they've got three different liquors that they're doing now. They're doing a vodka, they do a spiced rum, and a what they call Lone Duck cinnamon whiskey.
Really?
Do you know Big Red, the gum?
Yeah.
The cinnamon Big Red?
Yeah.
The whiskey tastes like that. But it's smoother, not quite as coarse or whatever, as sharp as that cinnamon, but it's got that flavor, but very little alcohol flavor.
Okay.
But does it warm your stomach?
What I've been told by some people that also don't like drinking the beers and things is that like a cinnamon whiskey like that goes well with root beer.
Oh, I imagine. Yeah, it was tasty. I mean, because I'm not a big liquor drinker either. No, I'm a casual drinker because of things with my dad and that. But when Dad gave me my first shot of Jack Daniels, at when I was very young, well, it was a half shot. It burned. It tasted good at first, and then it left that trail of fire like some whiskeys do. And I'm like, oh. And I tried this, and it was good, and there was no fire, and it was tasty, and I got really warm.
Yeah, that'll do that.
Jill tried a little, and she's like, "Oh, she didn't quite care for it." I'm like, "You gonna drink that?" And yeah, it was like kind of like a Big Red gum, but whiskey flavor, and so it was smooth too. Is aged well, but yeah, if it's ever in your area, it's Northern Oasis Spirits. They're starting to get their name out there in that.
Okay.
And I might actually try to pick up a bottle sometime because I know it's in local liquor shops here, but maybe see if I can find a small bottle because that'll last me like forever.
Right.
But
they have some local distribution. That's handy.
But they're local distribution, but they work out for. I mean, that's like actually Point Brewery here now distributes to like 7 or 8 states besides here.
Yeah.
And here you could go to the brewery tour as well, and for like I don't know, $5 or $10, you can you get a little wristband and you can go sample the many things there many times.
Oof. Yeah,
Wisconsin,
because Wisconsin. Yes, I. Sometimes they enforce those rules a little bit. Usually, it seems like after/during a brewery tour, there's usually at least one time where somebody goes, here you go. It seems like to the point where it's so here's the. I think for Lakefront you get like 4 tokens.
Yeah, we get Point Brewery here. I think gives you 3 or 4 each.
Yeah.
To which if you go with a group and you have people who are just looking for one beverage, here, have my token.
Yeah, no, that works out. Or you forget to use a couple before you turn in your glass because you get the glass.
Right.
I've got 2 left over from my last Lakefront tour because I transitioned too quickly. Usually, like I said, there's that point where somebody go, here you go. You're taking a tour, here you go. Or they just kind of put the token in there, wink,
Yeah.
I'd done the Sprecher one once, and I want to go back. I just haven't gotten around to it. And you get a wristband with like little tabs that they pull off, and they go, "Don't pull them off. The bartender has to blah 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 blah." And there's 4, and that was probably the most casual attempts at where they were just like, where it was very much you're tipping,
Yeah. Oh, I didn't pull it that time. Oh,
it's like, oops, I missed your wrist. What a pity. I think that 4 turned into 8. And that was including whatever I got to drink. You know, it started like at the beginning of the tour, and then like
Sure.
because we sat there for like another 2 or 3 hours and got like meat sticks and talked, and
Yeah,
so
yeah.
people I hadn't seen in a while, so we were all like,
Yeah,
we brought our buddy that's visiting from England. Oh, really? Well, we're going to talk about all the things.
Yeah, eventually I'd like to go to La Crosse. It's just such a drive, but I'd like to go to La Crosse and visit the small town brewery, see if they do a tour or whatnot, where they make all the Not Your Fathers.
Oh, okay.
Which I didn't even realize was local.
I did not realize that either.
Which I looked either, but no, small town breweries in La Crosse, Wisconsin. That's where at least the stuff that we get is, which is hilarious because when I watched Helen Keller versus the Night Wolves.
Of course you did.
Which is a great film.
Of course it is.
It's a beautiful film.
This I can believe.
When it's got Brian Bostwick in it as the traveling teacher who teaches Helen Keller how to fight the Night Wolves. It's got Lynn Shay in it, who plays an elderly Helen Keller who is telling her story to her grandchildren.
Okay.
Yeah.
Telling, you say? Like, yeah. I'm hoping with like the sign language, not otherwise.
Yes. Yeah. Well, okay. Helen could.
I want all the historical accuracy I can out of
right.
No,
she talks. She can still talk. She mouths the words for her. But anyway, it's Lynn Shay, so who cares? Yeah, I watch her in anything. But I was drinking Not Your Father's root beer, and I'm watching the movie, and they're making a joke about, this is a tasty beverage, and it's not my dad's. And I'm looking at the bottles, which are kind of blurred. I'm like, holy shit, it's Not Your Father's root beer.
What? Where did they make this film? Where they got this now? I'm confused.
I have no idea. I have no idea how they got it. I forgot to look up where the filmmaker was from. I didn't care. All I know is I was drinking a bottle of Not Your Father's root beer, and they were drinking Not Your Father's root beer. So there was kind of a meta moment in there.
It was just everything just clicked in the movie. They became that much more awesome because Mark was part of the movie now.
It was that much more awesome because they were making the joke, and I'm like, that's kind of funny, with what I'm drinking. And I'm looking at the bottles that they had on the table. I'm like, oh, you can't see the logo, but I can tell the liquid design. And I'm like, sweet, and it is. It was a beautiful thing, but okay.
Give me 2 seconds before we start here.
Sure.
I just Okay, sorry about that. Here we go.
No, that's quite all right. Get this set up here, over here, and all right. And welcome, my friends, for venturing down here into the spoiler room, down the stairs, pulling up a chair with us tonight to talk about. Oh, whoa. Hold on one moment. Need another drink.
Mark is dying. Don't die, Mark.
Mark is dying.
Stop dying, Mark.
I'm not dying.
Don't die.
I'm not dying.
Not the tumor.
It's not a tumor. And welcome, my friends, for taking this journey down the steps to the spoiler room, pulling up a chair with us tonight. And we are talking plastic surgery horror this week. Last week, I had to cancel the show. I was going to do one, but we're kicking it off this week with one that, I kind of discovered out of the blue. And it turns out one of my fellow crew members knows the film, has seen the film, and decided to join me tonight to talk about the Circus of Horrors from 1960. And tonight, as you imagine, with a British film, I have an expert of spoiler room British lore and other fine things. It is none other than Doctavius. Doc, how you doing, Steve?
I'm all right. How's by you?
I tell you, I'm drier. We're drier this week, so at least the floor is dry. I'm not sure about my beverage is rather wet, but you know. Those things go well.
Well, I'm staying. I'm enjoying my beverage. So.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you're enjoying a beverage. What are you drinking tonight, sir?
Ginger beer and bourbon.
Oh, well, the movie wasn't that bad.
No. Fine Gosling's ginger beer and a little bourbon in it.
Oh, cool.
Take the edge off of both of them.
Nice.
No, this is a fun film. I got no problem with this. That's why when you mentioned it, I'm like, wait, I know that film. Imagine again, like you hinted, Matt, Steve knows about a British horror film. I'm shocked.
Yeah. Well, I kind of figured you did. I wasn't quite sure, and so I'm glad we could work this out tonight. Did you want to try to give the synopsis of Circus of Horrors?
Yeah, I can do that. It shouldn't. It's simple and complicated at the same time.
Yes.
They're back near the end or just after World War II. There's a plastic surgeon named Dr. Rossiter, played by the super cool Anton Diffring. And if I got his pronunciation of his name wrong, I'm sorry. I'm used to reading these names, not hearing them. And he's got two assistants, a brother and sister. The sister is clearly in love with him, and the brother is kind of tied to him in that weird way that guys kind of get affixed to other guys sometimes, where they like them and don't like them at the same time, but they can't help but do all the things that they get told to do, especially in movies like this.
Yes.
And there's a patient of his where the surgery doesn't go well, and they explain it that he's like, I was doing everything right. She panicked and ran away, and it's all her fault. But he gets disbarred in England. So rather than get arrested, they run away to France. And while they're in France looking for a place to kind of hide up, they come across a dilapidated circus with a gentleman alcoholic gentleman played by a covered in hair Donald Pleasance and his young daughter who was injured during the war, and she's got a scar on her face. And he goes, aha. He goes, I can fix this for your daughter because I'm super cool. And slightly drunken, soon to be more drunken, Donald Pleasance goes, I can't afford that kind of thing. And he goes, yeah. He goes, I'll give you whatever you want, but I can't afford this. He goes, I got it. Fixes her up perfect. She's all happy. He's all happy. He goes, I told you I'd give you anything. He goes, give me the circus. He goes, I'll make it successful. We'll be partners, but you'll be the guy in charge. He goes, all right, how can this go wrong? And 2 minutes later, he's dead.
Oh, yeah.
Killed by his friend, the dancing bear. And we jump into about 10 years into the future. So now it's the late 50s. And basically he's gone around finding these disfigured women from whatever reason, mostly criminals, that he fixes up. So now they owe him, and he puts them to work. He trains them for the circus. And every time they decide that they're suddenly get a little hufty and decide that they're done with being in the circus or want to get married to somebody, he makes sure they have an accident and they die. And the cops figure out eventually, too many people involved with the circus have died accidentally. And then they hunt him down.
That's very well put.
It was a little longer than I anticipated.
No, it's okay. I mean, it's a spoiler room, so you can say that. But
there's also that too. I thought I could be more concise. That's all.
I
was having fun.
It's a fascinating story, and in all honesty, I just picked this randomly because I was looking for plastic surgery horror, And I think most people kind of associate plastic surgery horror to newer films.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, newer as in the last 30 years, 80s,
Yeah.
in the 90s, and that, and it fascinated me that this was 1960 and it was set in 1947.
Yeah, that's where it starts anyway. And
Yeah,
and I think when I picked this up, I think it was kind of random too. I don't think I was hunting for it. I think it was one of those, hey, Anchor Bay put this out and hey, look, this looks like fun. And eventually I watched it and went, I was right. This is fun.
it's a solid story. I'm looking at this going, how has someone not picked this up and tried to remake it?
Oh, yeah, I could totally see that. And it's very much a movie of its time and yet not at the same point.
Yeah. Well, because I loved, since, when he first is doing his surgery, it's 1947. And I love the little bit of subtext in the opening, section where he's on the run, which, in true British fashion, the film starts off in the middle of things.
Yes.
So, and they're dropping some heavy exposition in the car between the two cops. And you're like, wait, I'm trying to listen. Wait, I can't turn the siren down. Wait, you're giving me all these details. And the cop goes on the run and he runs across this little girl. And I'm like, oh, nice little subtext about how the war is still affecting kids, because he runs into that kid who was affected by the war and like one or two other people as well.
Yeah.
They bring up the war and you're just like, oh yeah, because they're in France and it's in 47 and it's not like the war just ended for people and everything was happy unicorns and rainbows.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because they talk about France being in poverty.
Yeah, because it's like Donald Venet is like, no one has money for the fun. Everybody's still trying to scramble to survive and rebuild everything. And he goes, that's why the circus isn't making any money. Nobody's got money to come out and see what I have left here.
Yeah, because he had a lot of people leave, and people don't have money because France is poor because it got annihilated during the war.
Yeah.
And I thought that was an interesting line, but Donald Pleasance showing up. Holy crap.
So young.
I know.
And hairy, like I joke. I've never seen that much hair on that man's head except for in this film. Even I think I've seen him in one other earlier piece, and I think he didn't have his hair quite so long, so it wasn't quite as much of a shock. Because at first you go, why does that guy look for? Oh, it's Donald Pleasance. That's why.
Yeah, because it's his eyes.
Yes.
I saw him in the credits, and I'm watching the movie, and as I'm watching the movie, I'm going, when's he going to show up? I'm sitting here going, where's Donald Pleasance? And then at one point when he's talking to Dr., who changed his name to Dr. Schuler eventually.
Yes.
He's talking to him. I'm looking at his face going, oh, that's Pleasance. I'm like, the eyes gave him away, but the rest of him, yeah, you don't. And the voice a little, but he's talking with a French accent.
Just enough, yeah. And it throws all that off. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, holy crap, no wonder he's doing so good. But everybody does well in here. Yeah. Oh, you mentioned that it was complex yet simple. I mean, do you remember when you first watched this or whatnot? Did it surprise you just how kind of a solid film, especially for its time and what type of film it is that you were watching?
It was one of those deals where I thought it would be a good time. I had no real doubt in that. And even I guess this is kind of a, not intentionally, it's kind of referred to as a loose trilogy, even though they're not related films. Mm-hmm. And there's a few things like that where it's kind of thematically, there's a few of these that came out at the same time, so they kind of get lumped together. And I've seen Horrors of the Black Museum with Michael Gough.
Mm-hmm.
And that is very similar in a lot of ways because it's bloody but it's not really gory in any way. And it's Horror of the Black Museum, at least the print I saw, it was kind of cut to a point where it was very finely done, where there was a lot of stuff you didn't see. Mm-hmm. And in this one, you see more of what's going on at certain times. And the editing in this is really solid. I'll say that, and I'm not somebody who knows much about that, so I'm not usually inclined to comment on it. But, like, during that, the sequence near the end with Melina and the
Oh yeah.
lions, I'm like, I can see all the little bits where they're piecing this together, but if you relax and try not to, it's done very well, I thought, where they don't linger on any of the
Mhm.
non-coherent shots long enough where they really would go where you go, "Oh, that was a guy in a lion suit. That's not an actual lion in that section of the corner." And it's not, like, focused on or anything, and
Mhm.
I'm like and a lot of the attack it's so there's this and that's where I think it kinda gets deep 'cause it was more violent than I expected.
Yeah, definitely.
And
Like in your face violent. Like,
Yeah,
holy
where
crap.
certain things, and because this is again, we're at, this is 1960s, so we're a few years into Hammer horror, and you can see the influence there, but it's gone in a different direction.
Mhm.
Where the Hammer films are very, there's the supernatural base for all. You've got a homunculus, with the Frankenstein creature. You got a vampire. You got a mummy. You got a wolfman. You got a something else. This is all people
Yeah.
doing bad things to each other.
Yeah, it's almost like early Grindhouse in many ways, or
This is the beginning. You could see this being a beginning, baby steps to where the roughies will come in another couple years in America,
Mhm.
and then from that you get what is kind of known as the exploitation grindhouse. So yeah, this is like the grandfather of some of those 70s films, I would
Be
say, certainly.
because none of your main characters in here really are good people. I mean, outside of maybe the cop, the rest of and the little girl who 10 years later she's 18, so
Yeah,
those two, but everybody else, I mean, you've got Dr. Schuler, Rasta, you got and then his two helpers, Angela and Martin.
yeah,
The majority of the circus performers are former criminals. I mean, the first one that he fixes up is a prostitute
that
who
stabs her John.
that stabs her John to steal the money.
It's like,
Played by Erica Remberg. Her character is Alyssa Caro, who's a major player throughout the film, basically.
yes,
Um, but I mean, all these people are kind of seedy,
yeah,
and there's really no good people in here. And it's just like, wow. And I'm watching all the elements and the way the story is, and what I'm like, this really is got some seeds for, if it was made a few years later, it'd probably have a few more extreme scenes in it and been pure exploitation in the US.
yeah. No, I think it would have been that much harder. Yeah,
Mhm.
even maybe a couple of years later.
Yeah.
The
Um,
one main thing I don't remember if I noticed it the first time. I know I kinda was kinda half paying attention and then started after I thought it, I focused. And it is a very in that regard, it's a very tight film because everything, every scene, every character, even if he's not on screen at that point, everything is about Anton Diffring's Rossiter/Schuler character.
it is.
If
It is the main plot.
and if he's not on screen, somebody's talking about him.
Mhm.
And everything because at first I'm like, to be fair, my brain first was kind of doing okay, all the girls like this dude. Okay, that's kind of at the time, and I'm like, no, wait a minute, it's more than that. Even the guys talk about him. Everybody talks about because it's that he is the driving force of this film, and he's so good because he's such a great bad guy.
He's a fantastic bad guy. I mean, he's a bad guy because even though we had the exposition, we see him trying to run away from the cops at the very beginning, and he just runs down a cop. I mean, he wastes
Mows
no
that
time.
dude down.
He didn't even slow down. And he's got two minions with him, basically, who follow him because they have some weird devotion to him because they're admiring his vision at first, which I love the fact they never go into what the exact magical technique Dr. Rassiter slash Schuler, what his technique is.
No.
It's just that it was, it made people who were horrendously scarred, especially in the face, look fantastic. It's fantastic plastic surgery, but they never go into what his technique was, which I loved that mystery. Yet these two hanger-ons, I, I mean, he treats them like shit,
Yeah.
and they're still helping him out for the most part. I mean,
Until things completely break down. But yeah.
because yeah,
Did they, and I'm now that we're talking about this, now all of a sudden I can't remember. Did they give him a background as to where he developed the idea?
no,
Because it's him and because of his accent and everything, I'm like, okay, it's 47.
he's
Is he
he's
English or
German.
I was gonna say he's German or Austrian.
He's German,
So
and I caught that. But
where
they
did he practice these skills before this?
exactly. My mind started to play at that too because he just says his technique. That's all he
Mhm.
describes it as. My special technique will make you beautiful. And that's the most we get. But he's German. It's 47. Yeah, you can put the implications there as well, I think,
Yeah.
which are intentional of how because he is working on modifying his technique.
Right.
And that
He's a mad scientist,
he is.
essentially. Yeah.
He's a straight up mad scientist. And like you said, the woman in the beginning who she was the
Evelyn.
Evelyn, yeah. Evelyn Morley, that makeup looked gruesome too. But even
And
the opening.
she snaps.
Yeah.
She's just screaming and yelling and because her face is like half melted at that point, and it's like, yeah, and like you said, it's a decent makeup too, where you go, ooh, and they linger on it long enough where you get a good look at it, but not long enough where you can go, oh yeah, I can see where it's spirit gum to her head or something like that.
Yeah, and so you've got her, and his technique failed with her, but that's because she wasn't a good patient.
She would rather wait. I told her there would be more surgeries. She's not, it's all her fault.
It's all her fault, and
not the procedure's fault. It's all her fault.
No, it isn't, because his procedure is flawless, and Schuler is such an arrogant asshole, but he's actually got some charisma to him.
Oh, totally. You can't be that guy and not have that level of, because otherwise you just drive it wouldn't make sense why anybody would want to hang out with him, but he is super cool. And then there were a couple of times in this movie where I'm like, why are you telling him your plan?
Yeah.
Because and right? Sometimes they would explain it, like Erica at one point, not Erica, Alyssa finds out some stuff about the cop that's snooping around and goes right to him and tells him, and I'm like, why would you? And then she goes at the end, well, I want my billing, and I'm like, oh, that's why. She's got to prove she's got something over him. But then 5-10 minutes later, after he gets attacked by the gorilla that hates his guts, he's like, oh, he rips half, a good chunk of his face off, and he's like, oh, these are superficial. And Martin's like, no, those are pretty deep.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, you're going to have to operate on me, and I'll walk you through it. It's going to be a local like we did last time. Oh, by the way, he looks like dead at Angela. Oh, by the way, I wanted you to know I'm marrying that
right.
chick with the big knockers I just fixed up. Dude, why would you tell her that?
Yeah.
She's going to operate on your face.
I mean, well, that's because that's his arrogance played
exactly.
in. That was his hubris or whatever, was the fact that
you'll be happy for me. You don't. Why would you care?
Yeah, you've been happy for me for 10 years. You've been in love with me while I've been, shagging all of my patients who've become stars, and then they want to leave, and then befall some horrible accident. So much so their circus is now named the Jinx Circus. Yeah, but 10 years. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to marry this woman. Here, operate on me. I'm like, dude, okay.
That took some nuts, man. I ain't going to lie. Because I just went, oh, that's a bad idea, dude. Why'd you do that? And then I went, why do I care? You're the bad guy.
Yeah, well, because the way Anton Deffring plays this character, as all the horrible things that Dr. Schuler does, you're actually kind of rooting for it.
He's got it very well laid out. I mean, and the movie explains it, because though it's set up, the like the first act is the prologue. It's all that, right after the war part, and basically sets up him getting the circus, figuring out how they're going to populate it, and goes to his minions. I'll take pictures of them before and after. We'll have a keep a dossier on everybody. We can blackmail them if they try and leave. It'll be perfect. They can't get anything on us then. And I'm like, you've just like closed a lot of the loopholes that most people would probably think of for this story. Got it all just tightly knotted right there. And I'm like, and just the next hour or so is just all, whew, hey, it worked out until it didn't.
Yeah, well, that's why this actually, like you said, the film is dated, yet it felt modern because this character actually is a smart for most of the film until it gets the better of him. He's got this later. He's a smart villain.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm watching Circus of Horrors, it's called, from 1960, and here I have this really well-written villain.
Yeah, you don't normally. There's that expectation where he's going to be, it's going to be Bella or, and he's just like, I will do this because it's awesome. I am a bad guy, bleh, and it's not that. He again, we said he's the mad scientist, but he's focused and he's not a stupid, crazy mad scientist. He just has this vision he has to fulfill. Because then that next, the hour, once the circus is popular, it's about getting back to London so he can kind of rub it in everybody's face. Yeah, I got kicked out of England. Well, I may not stand up at the end of it and go, ha ha ha, I'm that guy you kicked out, but he's gonna prove to himself he was the one that was the better man.
Right. He wanted to prove at all that it was right because he was right because it was eating at him, even though the circus, he could have just lived with the circus for 10 years and avoided London. It was eating at him that they didn't believe in him.
Yeah. Oh, I'm a criminal? Pfft, no, I'm not, and that's his downfall, is because he has to have that last little goal to achieve. Because like he could have just kept touring and shagging all these hot women. And whew, yeah, again, we talk, the Hammer horror is, there's the Hammer beauty, there's always that. Usually, man, this one's just overflowing with very attractive women from that time period, some of which were also in Hammer horror, but at the same time, it's just like, dude.
Oh yeah, a lot of them. I was looking
up
their
blood and hot ladies. It was very.
I was looking up their list of of the actresses and what other things they've been in. All of them are fairly accomplished actresses. Even at this time, they've all been in other things. So it's not like they just grabbed a bunch of extras either. They grabbed people with experience and such. Which again, like I said, it may sound off, but I'm just like, for a movie like this with the title and what type of film it is, you don't expect this type of talent even in the smaller supporting roles.
It's an exploitation title, and you expect a lower budget, and no offense to all the stuff that we love.
Well, no,
but there is that kind of expectation. Okay, it's going to be lower budget. There's going to be a lot of people on their way up and a few people on their way down, and it's going to be good, but we're going to have to paper over some of these, gaps in our brains. And this movie's not that movie. No, like you keep saying, this is a very solid. I find it very entertaining. It's got a very low rating on the, on whatever the Plex pulls numbers from. But I'm looking at it going, that's not it. This is not no 58.
No, it's not at all. I mean, if you pay attention to it a little bit and see what's going on, I mean, never mind the fact that they've actually got, and when we say circus, they actually have circus performer footage in here for chunks of time that are real performers. So you've got actual acts going on, stunts and that. So the Alyssa Caro character played by Erica, I don't know if she probably didn't do her own part, but whoever they got to be the actress to do her stunt is actually doing this dangerous stunt with the hangman's noose.
It's probably the actual circus performer for, I'm guessing. This part I don't know. I didn't dig deep enough into this. But because they said they actually had an actual circus there that they were getting, and you could see, the audience footage, and then you could see kind of where it'll go back and forth between performer footage and then, but it looks like they modeled all the costumes for the actors and actresses based on whoever was in the circus, and then used that to piece it together. And like I said, with the editing, they did a good job on where, because a lot of the performer shots are at like with her doing the aerial work, it's at a distance. You can't see her face. And if they do a close up, you can, that's a close up. She's not up, however many feet in the air. So, and I think the other main difference between the first time I watched this and this time this week is that I've been privileged to be around a lot of, not really, well, they're circus performers to some degree. They do a lot of, I've known people that do similar stunts.
Right.
So I have a better feel for what some of this takes, even at where they're not at such a height, maybe for the aerial work or even some of the sideshow stuff, and just knowing some of the effort that it takes to do those things. And it's that much, some of those scenes impacted me, I think, a little tighter now, because I'm like, I know what's involved now for some reason. That I don't remember what happens next, but I'm feeling very anxious right now. I hope she does. Yeah. Just like with the aerial thing, they trick you on that one. I was like, oh, I forgot that. Oh shit.
Yeah, she's hanging. The hangman's noose, this lady hangs by her neck and gets spun around in the air, and her body's is straight out as she's spinning in a circle, and it's pretty, actually, edge of your seat kind of tense.
Yeah.
Just for reference, I looked it up. It was an actual circus.
Yeah.
And it was called Billy Smart's Circus, and it was one of 3 big tenting circuses in the United Kingdom at the time.
That was handy that they could keep that S for Schuler, huh?
That they make a note of that in the trivia. They said that's probably why his name was Schuler, so that it would match the initials, since the boards had B and BS Circus on it, so that way it would match the
footage that they shot.
The footage that they shot. But what I found interesting is, for the deaths in this film where they're accidents, you're watching it, and I found myself, in spite of myself for a 1960s film, actually feeling tense. I tensed up waiting to see if the actress, the character, was going to die, because they'd say something to Schuler and he'd say a few lines or get that look, and then they go out and perform, and you're just like, okay, is it going to happen now? And you're waiting for it, and then it doesn't, and then you're like, oh, and then you're like, oh wait, why is she out for a knife throwing demonstration? Oh shit.
And that again, that's why I think I like this one so much, because again, you know what's going to happen, but you don't know what's going to happen, and I got that tension too, because even I just finished watching it, about an hour or so ago, and with the how they deal with Alyssa at the end, she's doing the neck thing, and I'm like, okay, oh crap, getting very anxious while I'm watching this, and I'm like, I've seen this. It's been long enough where I don't remember, but I've seen this, and I know it's not going to go well. And then, I think everything is. Again, that's why they managed to fake you out enough on some of this where things don't happen quite as telegraphed as you would expect.
Right.
So it does add. It's, at least for me, I felt the actual tension build, and that's not something that's easily done. We've seen enough films where they're supposedly trying to build tension and nothing happens.
Right.
And this one, it works for me more often than it didn't.
And it's the way, I think it goes back partly to what you were saying before, is the actual tight editing of this film, the way everything plays out. There's no, and people probably, if you watch enough films, you can recognize if there's some extra fat or whatnot. There's no fat to this story. Every scene pretty much is moving the story and the plot. Even when you get to the cops, when we get a few of their scenes where they're in the desk and the one cop, Ames, is trying to build his case against Schuler. Even that dialogue, all of that is centered around Schuler. It's centered around the circuit. It's centered around moving this plot, which I loved. You don't get, even with the hinted romance that they have between Ames and the now grown-up girl,
Yeah.
who Schuler fixed because it's 10 years
Yeah.
later.
Nicole.
That even works into the plot and deals with Dufresne. It's not like some off romance that they just have.
It's not a B plot.
No,
There is no B plot in this film.
There is none, which also surprised me because it's just like, holy crap.
Yeah. And there's not that 5 minutes where the cops just talk and kind of build a character or something like that. Like you said, no, it keeps moving.
Yeah.
And which is impressive for a film that runs just under an hour and a half. Because at that point, so many of those films are 60-minute films that have about 20 to 30 minutes of stuff that are there just to fill out the running time, because that's the only way they could sell it.
Yeah, and I loved that, and again, Anton Dufresne just he's the centerpiece, and it's great that he is because he's so good in this. That and the editing, they do well with the guys in the suit. I mean, the dancing bear.
Yeah.
Mad props to him. You know what's going to happen. Donald Pleasant's drunk off his ass, and he gets him over to the bear, and you're like, oh, okay, I see how this is going to happen. But they keep the camera angled enough where you're like, wait, is that? No, that's a guy in a suit. Wait.
Right. And the other thing, again, with even that sequence, it doesn't go immediately the way you would anticipate, because it's right after they've signed the contract. So it's like, Dr. Schuler now is like the silent partner in this circus that supposedly he still is going to be running and owning. And Vanet is drunk off his butt, brings the bottle of wine, wants to go dance with his bear friend. And while he's dancing with the bear, he drops his bottle of wine. It shatters. So it's not like, Schuler does anything to get him or pokes him in it. It's that part is all accident. The bottle shatters, the bear steps on it, the bear freaks out and attacks. Schuler goes running to go help and then decides not to interfere. It's that moment where you can see him make the decision to go, you know what? I'm going to let this just kind of go through. I can play this. This will work. But instinctively, he goes to go get the stick that'll help.
Right.
Then, you can see his face change, and I love that.
Yeah, well, he gets the realization, this actually works in my favor, so I don't have to kill this guy later.
I don't have to figure out a way to get rid of him later.
Because that was in the back of his mind. I mean, you're sitting there the minute he says, oh, make me partner, and you're just like, oh, shit. Okay.
There's no doubt in anybody's mind he's going to bump him off at some point, and it's just, but again, it's still not instinctive for him. And that's interesting to me, because then it means he's not defaulting to evil. He's not just a one note, I will, as soon as I have the chance, I'm going to stab you in the back guy.
Yeah.
But it's there. He is evil enough where it's like, okay, I can see this. Even if I save him now, he'll probably still die. But he can make it look good. It just happened. What are you gonna do?
Yeah,
he's drunk and the bear got him. What am I gonna do? I'm not gonna fight a bear. I'm not a stupid idiot.
Accidents happen.
It's just an accident, and it's the first of so many accidents that would happen.
Yeah, which I love that after 10 years he had a little bit of a refined experience. And he always seemed to manage to find someone who, which you're just like, holy crap, there's a lot of scarred people in London, in France, I should say.
Well, they were touring at that point. They're not all in France.
Yeah, so
because they were in Berlin. I think they jumped 10
years
in the future. So Europe still had, a lot of roughed up people.
A lot of roughed up people, but it was, I just thought that was interesting with his body trail of bodies, which again, all the ladies that are his victims or his, kind of prisoners, all were talented. And I enjoyed them, especially the Alyssa character, who was basically his first employee. Erica Remberg. I liked her quite a bit because she was a fairly strong female character, I think.
She stood up for herself. I liked that too.
Yeah.
She was definitely, I'm good at this now. You cannot deny me that. You gotta, give me my representation and such.
Which might explain why she survived the longest over 10 years, because even though she didn't get top billing, she seemed to play the smartest angle. Because some of the other ladies, you could kind of tell they were just victims of the war and such. And so they didn't think as deep or whatnot. But Alyssa, I mean, because you had the one, who was it, Magda, who was leaving, who was the title, his headliner for a while, who did the weird act on top of a horse who jumped through
the ring of death or whatever.
The ring of
I forget
death.
what it was called. It was all the knives that kind of point through, and every time you kind of go, is this the time where they're going to do something and it's going to stab her?
Yeah, especially when
every time
when she talked about how she was going to go off and get married, and you're like, oh, and then it's, the young girl who he saved is going to take over her act. But I'm like, oh, great. Why'd you tell Dr. Death this? Yeah. And so she's practicing it with the blades, and the whole audience is just waiting for him to make a noise or something to cause the horse to jump and land in the night. But that's not how she died.
Or, just somebody bumps it and...
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. No.
She doesn't
again.
die.
Back to tension. It's all about. There's a lot of tension that builds because you're just waiting. This is the obvious way? It's got to be this. Oh, it wasn't that. Oh, maybe everything. Oh no, everything won't be okay.
Yeah, because you know what type of character he is. That's why it was. Yeah. It was interesting. It was like, holy crap! It's her last night, and she survived her normal performance. Oh well. Maybe this isn't going to go the way. Why is she coming out? Wait, she's volunteering for a knife throwing act. Oh, okay.
There was another thing about Alyssa, because as much as, again, this is very focused.
Yeah.
There are these little brush strokes or whatever you will to call them. After the aerialist Alyssa dies, the first guy out there is that one main clown.
Yeah.
And he's holding her hand and it's like, okay. And at first it's like, okay, maybe this is part of his job. He's, you don't really see him too much. You see him a little bit here and there. And then, they take her out, and then you get that brief scene. He goes back to his little tent, and he's got almost nothing in it, but he's got a mirror. And he's got a picture of her, and he just takes it down, gives it that sad look, and then that's it. And it's like, oh, were you guys a thing, or was you just a thing for her? Or either way, it's like, he has no lines. That clown has no dialogue. And he gets that one little character moment, and it's perfect too. He does it so well. I don't even know what that guy's name was, but it was just delightful.
I don't even know if they
I don't think they credited him.
I don't think they credit him either, but whoever it was, that moment was just like,
yeah. And sometimes with no dialogue, you don't get a credit. And I'm like, especially at that point, now they credit everybody. But at that point, if you didn't have dialogue, you weren't on the list. And I'm like, dude, he did such a nice little character. It's beautiful. It added that extra bump that is miserable as or as tough or whatever you want to call that character. This guy loved her.
Yeah. Well, they played at it a couple of times because they would cut to him watching her when she would perform. So you knew he performed. There was maybe something there, but you weren't sure how far. And then you're like, oh, okay, that was a nice little touching moment.
and it made it so too where it wasn't just like, oh, these women die and it's just for us as an audience in the movie to go, oh no, another gal died, oh, it's horrible. it made it because we've seen those movies too, where it's just like, they're just fodder, and it's just for us to be amused by how creatively they die. And it's like, no, it added that little depth where it's like, no, people cared about these people that are dying. It's not just, oh, we're all screaming and running from the mass killer or anything like that, where it might have been in a slasher 30 years later.
Yeah, they give these characters, these ladies, enough screen time so they aren't just the body count.
Yeah.
I mean, each one of them, like the last lady, the lady that was replacing Alyssa.
The Melina character. Yeah. The one that went in with the lions at the end.
Right.
Melina, yeah.
They're playing her as Helen of Troy or whatever, Melina, and you know, they give her enough screen time to where she's not just another victim, to enough for you to care not to happen to her, and you just get more skeeved as you watch the doctor play out his gaslighting on her, on every woman, and you watch him just do it so precision sharp, like, you know, pardon my pun, but a scalpel, to where he plays it just right with them.
Yeah, realistically, that's the only one we see from, well, beginning to end.
Yeah,
the other ones we come into after they've either, you know, there's that jump where we don't see the middle. We see maybe, you know, like with Alyssa, you see the beginning,
right,
and but you don't see the middle where he's, you know, mentally and physically abused her or anything like that, or even if it's not officially, you know, he's kind of
he's manipulating them.
He's manipulated them, certainly, yeah, to get what he wants out of them, definitely. Even if, you know, you could argue whatever. He's not even, that's why it's weird at the end, because he has this history. We know he has this history. We've developed the way that all the women interact with him and how he's interacted with them. Like when Magna's like, I'm leaving, he starts like kissing on her again, and she's like, dude, no. No, we're not doing this anymore. And then he's like, all right, I'm sorry. It's like he's thought that was going to work. And it's just kind of weird because it's that he's just kind of like, oh, okay, well, you know, I'll knock it off. You know, like I can pretend to be a gentleman for a minute. You know, it's like, no, you can't.
Yeah, but he would resort to the more more direct moments when all of his other tools wouldn't work.
Yeah. But then once because he, you know, he Melina, he fixes her face, he starts training her, he builds her confidence back up and everything like that. You know, it's all obviously the stuff he's done with so many other women. And then he goes, oh, I love her. Yeah, I'm going to marry her. So Angela, right before we're going to fix my face. And she's like, what kind of dumbass are you? You know, but then after when the lions are not sedated like they're supposed to be, and she stumbles and they just tear her up, he looks legitimately freaked out and, you know, terrified. It's not like he's like, oh, all right, well, I'll have to find another large breasted brunette, I suppose. You know, it's there. He's like, oh my God, oh, what happened? Oh, this is horrible. And then her name is his last words.
Yeah.
So it's like, again, there's that extra little depth there where you're not completely sure of everything going on in his brain. He's not so one-dimensional where it's just like evil.
Well, and that's like his weird hanger-ons, Angela and Martin, who Angela's played by Jane Hilton, and she did such a good job. You're just sitting there going, why are these people still with him after 10 years? You know, the Martin character you can kind of see because he just intimidates him. It just, you know, and Angela, you know, it makes you wonder if she is more there. Well, because she drops that great line. What was it? With one of the earlier girls, I think it was with Alyssa, maybe, or Magda. That's what it was. It was Magda. After he gets all kind of mashy and she comes in, and Magda goes, how could you stay with him, knowing that Angela loves Schuler?
Yeah.
And she's like, how can you just be so loyal and stay with him for so long, you know, and put up with this? And she's just like, patience, my dear, you wait for your time. And I'm like, oh,
she thinks eventually he's going to come around.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, we've all known that person, for better or for worse, where they're just standing there waiting, going, when so-and-so gets done running around, they'll realize I've been here this whole time and I've been waiting. And we've seen those movies too, where that's the thing. Isn't that a John Hughes movie or something right there?
John Hughes movie, at least.
Where it's just like, oh, I'm just gonna stay here because eventually, you know, Molly Ringwald will see I'm the best.
It'll take me out of the friend zone. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's just kind of a side thing. But that's still, again, back to Schuler. But I love the Angela character. And yeah, you know, when you're sitting there and near the end there, you're like, dude, get yourself some new minions because you've lost these two finally after 10 years. Um, and then yeah, that final act because he's in London, and so Eveline shows back up.
Yes, Evelyn.
Yeah,
That's
Evelyn.
the British pronunciation of Evelyn.
Yes, thank you.
Or at least her pronunciation, Evelyn. Yes,
Evelyn, who shows up because Ames, who is the inspector posing as a reporter, turns it into a fundraising event. So Schuler can't really turn this down, and he's just thinking, oh hey, I can turn this into an opportunity to show off my latest creation. What I loved though is because this was after you said the gorilla attacked.
Yeah.
And what I caught right away, and I loved it, and it had to be on purpose. You have Morley, you have Evelyn with her face, and the left side of her face is what was destroyed, and the right side of his face is destroyed. So when they look at each other, they're looking at a mirror.
They're looking at the same side as messed up, and it helps. It causes that, like you say, mirror image, and at the same time, it helps kind of sell why she might not immediately recognize him, because supposedly near the beginning they do plastic surgery on him to make him look different,
which all they did was get rid of
shave his beard. Yeah. Shave his beard, essentially, is what it looks like.
They got rid of his master beard,
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah. This evil beard got shaved off, so clearly he turned good. He went from the mirror universe back to ours. Because I'm like, so from our perspective, we go, he looks the same. He still looks like, Anton Differing. He just took his facial hair off. But that sells for that moment that, oh, maybe she wouldn't recognize him because it's been 10 years and he looks a little different. And it's the ring that gives him away.
Yeah.
He's wearing this jewelry that he never takes off.
Yeah. And again, that's his arrogance making him a little blind to some of the details because he thinks he's just so getting away with this. And it's great, folks. And yes, this is a spoiler room. And this is one of the great endings. It's such tense and filled because the last 10 minutes of this film, there's a lot going on. Yeah. I mean, there's been a lot going on throughout the whole film, but you get this last climax. The cops have verification kind of that Schuler's the bad guy. So they're going to go arrest him. He's got his Helen of Troy in the lion's den, which doesn't have the sedated lions because Martin and Angela have turned on him. So, and he's actually seems to be attached to this one, Melina.
Yeah.
So you've got Melina dies. You've got the cops show up. You got Schuler go on the run. And
he's tearing ass.
He's tearing ass through everyone. He's throwing benches on people. And cops.
He goes to challenge Angela and Martin first.
Well, yeah.
And then when he's like, well, the heck with this. It turns out this little conductor's whip thing he's been carrying around has an ice pick in it. Goes to stab Martin. His sister jumps in front of him, takes the shot in the back.
Yeah.
For him. And he tears off. So he gets she has a grand death scene. It made me feel guilty about how poor mine have been of late. Yeah. Because I'm like, ooh, she probably got stabbed in the lung. That gotta hurt. It's deflating and it's miserable. Lovely.
Yeah, and she screamed too, which brought the cops because they were already searching for Schuler.
Martin, as he runs away, lets the gorilla loose.
That was great.
So he's got a cops running after him. He's got a gorilla running after him for a while. And I'm like, I'm waiting for the gorilla to drop down on him from a tree or something.
And Evelyn, who saw in the beginning, she has her husband go into the gas station to get her something. She hops in the car, turns the car around, comes back to the circus, and she sees Schuler and runs his ass down.
In a mirror image of the beginning of the film, when he runs down the cop, runs him down.
And it was like
the little loop that causes I'm like, man, that's solid. I like that.
the film comes full circle and you didn't even expect it because you're like, oh, the gorilla's going to get him.
Yeah.
Okay, the cops are finally going to get him. Oh, something. Because they even he runs into the circus tent and you're like, okay, cops are going to get him or something's going to fall on him.
Yeah.
Or he's trying to escape and an accident's happened. No. Oh, is he going to get away? And here she comes and she gets this look on her face of delight and just mows him down in front of cops and everyone.
She, much like Schuler, or Rossiter at that point did with the bear.
Yeah.
There's that moment where it's like, do I help? Nope.
Mm-hmm.
And she gets that look where it's like, oh, I have time to, I'm not stopping. Fuck this guy.
She's
and
like,
bam.
No, I'm hitting the gas.
She hits the gas.
She hits the gas.
Make sure she clips that dude.
And I was like, I did not see that one coming at all.
The other moment like that where I'm like, okay, this is what's going to happen and doesn't is when they're taking Alyssa out on the stretcher and she starts trying to talk going past Ames and he's like, wait a second. And it's like, okay, it's this dramatic moment. She's got her potentially what could be her last breaths and she's trying to say something that's gonna, and she just kind of, she's like desperately trying to say something and never gets a word out.
Nope.
Every other film, she would have said Rossiter with her last breath, in 3 syllables, 4 syllables, can't get a word out. And I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, you have that Rosebud moment where you're going like, okay, well, here it comes. She's going to say it, and everybody's going to look at Rossiter, and he's going to run. No.
Nope. That's not the thing that gets him.
And then you see Ames really disappointed because he was hoping for it in front of everyone that she would say it.
And Schuler's sweating. He's standing right next to him, just sweating like crap. Oh, whew, she's dead.
Huh, she died. She didn't say my name. I'm good. Yeah, we're the Jinx Circus. Let's move on.
There's just enough little twists in this where it doesn't play out just as a traditional, stereotypical whatever that make this so much. And as much as I'm talking this is not like the weirdest hidden gem, but this is a solid B+ type. No, this is something where if you got a chance to watch this, this is worth a watch. Definitely.
It is not worth the 6 point whatever on IMDb. This is for especially the period and the type of film that it really is. It is surprisingly well done on all angles to where you're just like, wow, this is actually has a bit of a modern feel. That's why I say I'm surprised no one's really tried it because I'm looking at this going, you just have to change a few things, and this easily could be told in a kept the same way, just with a modern. I'm like, easily because of the way it's written and the way everybody performs it. It's just that solid film, and there are gore special effects, and there's only one thing in this film I will say that dates us at 1960.
Okay,
there's one thing.
All the smoking.
The damn song.
Oh, yes. It's very much a 50s pop song, and they play it a lot. I thought I was going to say the people that smoke constantly.
Yeah, well, there's that too.
Yeah, but, no, it's 50s. Catchy, but after the third time you hear it, I'm like, no, can we have a different song too?
It's the song called "Look for a Star."
Yeah.
It actually was a hit pop recording in Great Britain and the US. And so it did actually become, when the movie came out, it actually did hit the charts. And it's called "Look for a Star." And it was the only thing, and it's the only thing I wish they hadn't had in there because I was enjoying it. I'm like, this is still the 58, 1958. This is still, and then she starts doing her performance, and this 60s song comes off.
Yeah.
It's kind of easy listening type, and I'm just like,
Yeah, it's Alyssa's music that she performs to, and it's not a bad song by any means, but it's just the fact that you hear it through. They're very clearly getting their money's worth out of this song.
They play it at least 3 times during the movie, and it clearly is the only thing that is out of place because it is totally not from the era.
No, that sounds like a late '50s pop song.
Does it really?
A
I
late
didn't.
'50s English pop song? I would say so, yeah.
Oh, see it. But maybe
No.
because it was so similar to early
That
to late '60s type songs
it
that I.
it it's a not it's like a non-rock song. You gotta remember though too, like there's that period one, there's like a pop scene in Britain that was a little different in the late '50s than it was in America, and then 2,
Okay.
once you get to the point where, like, Buddy Holly's dead and, like, Chuck Berry's in jail and Elvis is
Right.
in the army, there's that period even in American pop where or pop rock, if you will, where you get your and no offense to any, Paul Anka and guys like that, where it's more poppy than rocky, the Fabians,
Right.
the Dions and it's very much in that style to me.
Hmm.
So, it didn't take me out of it because 'cause I'm like, "Yeah, it's one of those songs." It's a Cliff Richard, it's one of those dudes, you know?
And I
And
guess
that said, if I find this on 45, I'm buying it, I ain't gonna lie. I won't listen to it necessarily, but Imma buy a copy, I ain't
hell yeah.
and I will show it to you, and you'll be like, "Dude, did you get me one?" You only had the one.
I get it. I may not listen to it, but I get it. I have it because it came from this movie.
It's a
And
soundtrack, so we gotta has the
yeah,
thing, yes.
that's right. But I guess you're right. I guess for me, that style of song, since I've watched,
It read of a different era for you.
it read of a different era
Yeah.
because that's the type of song that you heard in those mid hippie type horror
Oh,
films
okay.
that came out, started to come out in the mid 60s and that
Sure.
the song that this is a horror, those type of horror movies where there's people are going to be just totally ripped to shreds by Italian zombies or something. But the opening theme song sounds like something from a romance movie,
Mhm.
light,
Okay.
airy. And so when I heard this, I'm like, oh, because it
Like
felt just like one of those songs to where, like, especially Italian horror, the early,
yeah. Like
this
Black Lace or The Whip in the Body.
right,
Yeah.
where this movie is going to be about people getting whipped to death. But before that, here's
That's
this airy, light pop song that sounds like it's from Mamas and the Papas, and you're like, what
yeah.
the fuck? That's why I love those movies because I'm just like, this song does not fit this movie at all.
But for
So
them, it did, for us,
yeah, for them at the time. But I mean, so I've seen enough of those to where when I heard this, I kind of equated that. I'm like, okay, yeah,
no.
1960s, yeah.
I see where you're coming from. Not a problem.
So that's where it kind of caught me a little. I mean, not enough to take me out of the film because I think the film was really well made, surprisingly, and very enjoyable, quite a bit.
Yes, yes.
But it was just still one of those things where like,
Where you're like,
there's the date. There,
"Oh,
there,
oh, they're starting the song again. Okay."
there it
It
is.
took me a while, but it as much as it's the same, it sounds exactly the same every time.
Yeah.
It looks like they have a band in the corner that's playing it.
Yeah, well, and she even mentions
Are they
to
that good where they can note for note do it every time exactly the same? That's impressive.
I'm starting to think they had to because we're working on limited budget, so maybe they did record it.
No, it
At,
was definitely record but, like, the circus has
well,
a
the circus,
band.
yeah, you're right. The
You
circus,
you
yeah.
contextually in the film,
Oh yes, it has its own band, which you're like, because they're up there too when they're doing the was it the Helen of Troy stage. You got the band too. Yeah, they've got their own band.
No, that's the circus. I would expect a circus probably would, yeah.
But
I mean, I haven't been to a circus in
with a
forever,
pop
but
singer though, you just
that's the part that seems a little odd at this point.
yeah.
Who's the pop star that's touring with a circus,
And then you also get we most of the stuff is contained within the big top and some other scenes. We do get the scene that just adds a whole nother layer of creepy though to the circus, and they throw it in there, I think, on purpose to show you just what Schuler has done. They have this odd scene where they're living dioramas.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Was it the Theater of Beauty or
Theater of Beauty to
something
where
like that?
yeah, where these people are taking tours and you've got a guy who's kind of giving them like a tour guide, and they've got these booths with titles above them that have curtains, and then they draw the curtains as he gives his little prezo, and they're live models that are trying their best to stand still.
That's not easy, dude.
And that's not easy.
I know a living statue. That's not easy.
Yeah. And that's the thing, though, is that's all it is. And it was the creepiest thing. And it's so simple, but I'm just like, this really has this macabre feel.
But dude, it's an anti-sideshow.
It is.
It is. That's what that's the sideshow you would expect from a circus, but he made it pretty because he wants everything perfect. You know,
Pretty,
I can make everybody look pretty.
Yeah,
so it's creepy in a way, but it makes I bet you those were real too. That's the thing. Those are probably not something they made up for this.
No, I imagine they probably did have those type of things where they had living statue type folks.
Yeah. I know a couple people that do that.
Which, you know, but considering within the context of the film, it just added another level of creepy to the circus going, what the hell else did they?
Oh yeah, no, it totally fits into Rossiter and Rossiter / Schuler's whole craziness, and you know, not having, you know, the bearded lady and stuff like that, having someone being Adam and Eve and having somebody being Helen of Troy, and you know, these pretty people from history type gimmick. Yeah, no, that fits his mentality definitely.
Yeah, and that's the thing. His circus was made up of people you don't expect to see in the circus, and that was his hook, I think. Outside of the clowns, you know. But
well, yeah. That was one part they're very talented, and one part, man, that's an attractive ladies. They got lots of attractive ladies. Let's go see that circus, honey. Want to go see the circus? They're talented, very talented. None of them can drown.
We're talking about 1958 when it was supposed to be the circus, you know, years later. So you're going to have that because you have the conservative lifestyle, not only in the US, but there was in Britain too, especially. I mean, the Brits had it for ages. So, you know, you would have them go to circus so they could.
You get that weird thrill.
Yes. By still being good, quote unquote, and still being conservative. Well, we went to the circus to see the people. Never mind what's going on in your brain while you're watching the people.
Yeah.
But
and circus people are circus people. We don't mingle with the circus people. We just go and see the show. You know, yeah, that's totally what that vibe would have been. Yeah, I expect.
Never mind, you're trying to figure out what outfit. I'm like, that outfit's not appropriate for riding a horse, but you know, or being on a no, that's what it was. Magda outfit when she was on the spinning wheel for the knife act. I saw that. I'm like, whoa.
Circus outfits have always been kind of sassy, so
yeah,
it fit, you know, but at the same time I'm like, yeah, did they have double back tape back in the 50s? Because I could see that being very necessary.
Right?
I know that's a thing.
Well, yeah, it definitely is.
Now, at least. I don't know about then,
but it just surprised me when she pulled the role. I'm like, whoa. I'm like, because at that point, I'm an audience member, because that's the way they do this film so well, is they put you right in the audience. So, you know, I'm sitting there in 1958 and she reveals her outfit, and I'm just like, man, if this was 1958, it would be really like, whoa. It'd be like, holy crap.
Young man, I'm going to have to explain to you what's going on right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Turn to your boy. Just watch the knives. Don't watch the ladies spinning around.
Yeah, just don't watch the ladies spinning around.
Especially if that boob falls out.
I don't think
you watch the knives. I'll keep an eye on the lady, make sure she's safe.
Make sure her clothing stays on. I don't think the boob's going to drop out. It might drop out, but I don't think the boob's going to drop out. It may not drop out, but it could drop out.
If there's going to be a wardrobe malfunction, I'll monitor that.
I'll cover your eyes.
Yes. Jim. Don't look, young man.
Yeah. You know, this film, I love finding movies like this, you know, and it's interesting because I think you growing up or you when you watch certain films and you read certain books and that you don't realize that from these eras of the late 50s, early 60s and that you actually had some of these movies that um were, a little more deviant
Yes.
at the time. We had the conversation one other time where it was like it's black and white. So if you watch enough movies, especially growing up in the way I was raised in, the black and white movies were always fairly clean cut. You know what I mean? You know what I mean,
Till
though.
you go pre-code, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you don't know any of that, but I
No,
mean,
they didn't play the pre-code ones when we were kids on TV anyway, so what difference does it make?
right.
But
I mean,
yeah. So
as
all you
far
see is the quote unquote nice ones, yeah.
you see all the popular ones because that's what your parents watch. It's you're watching those, and especially if you grow up early, like I did on them, and my dad and my grandparents always showing me the classics, constantly all these. You're like, oh, love scenes, they're gonna cut away. Oh, the most you're gonna see her is in a robe that covered it. Okay.
Yeah. They're gonna
And
kiss really deeply and then they're gonna cut. Yeah.
yeah, and then you get something like what, Beast of Yucca Flats, which has a topless,
This one was close. I'm
you,
wondering if there's an internet, like a continental version where there's a little bit more going on in that shower scene.
yeah, the shower scene surprised me, and then
I
there's
was like,
this.
oof.
Then there's a scene where he's with Melina, and
Yeah.
he's making out, and he's undoing her bra and stuff, and the bra is like gravity is holding that thing on.
Yeah, she's just turned away from the camera enough where there's nothing, on display. He's just rubbing her back.
but
And then there's that moment where he has to leave and she turns over and I'm like, whoa, okay.
I'm like
Nothing happened, but it was like I was kind of like, is
that.
something gonna happen? Should I not be paying attention now? Should I turn away? Young lady, what is going on?
It's borderline for that time, and so
It was sassy, yeah.
it was definitely had some sauce to it for sure, and you're just like your brain, you
I
don't
wonder
realize, but then you think about it, you're like, no, there were probably a lot of movies that were a lot more borderline, and especially for this being British.
I wonder if this was rated X back in the day, or if it was because X in it that it was like just it was like RR
Yeah,
essentially. Now it wasn't like we consider like X or triple X to be something pornographic. X, if I remember correctly, was like there are no kids.
yeah,
You have to be in it. That's why the Hammer film X the Unknown is if it was like a deep horror movie, they were still just bringing those back in the late 50s for Britain. So
mhm.
like the Quatermass Experiment and X the Unknown, they were very definitely referencing that rating when they named these films to kind of go, ha, this one's going to be hard, man. You're going to want to watch. It was kind of go like, hey, we got another Friday the 13th. It's going to be skeevy. You want to come watch this?
Yeah.
It's like it was basically a hint to the audience, dude. You want to see this one? This one's going to be serious. You're going to see some gnarly stuff.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if there's a different cut. I'm just looking really quick.
It's because I've got a couple of British films from this general time period where
Mhm.
kind of you would hear the stories reading books. When people couldn't compare things. Oh, there's supposedly this. There's supposedly that. I don't know if I think I lent that to my buddy forever ago. I never got it back. There's a movie called The Flesh and the Fiends that's based on the Burke and Hare grave robber stuff. There's a normal or the British version and a continental version. It's basically like, okay, we go into the tavern and everybody's having a good time. And you go into the tavern in the continental version and all the ladies don't have a shirt on. Um, I think the
Actually,
Jack the Ripper one that I got that's like late 50s too has got something similar where it's like there's just like a couple extras, seconds
bits.
of film here.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, that too. That one's got, but that's got like three different versions of the film on it, and I still got to watch two
Oh,
of them. So it's like here's the U.S. version, here's the U.K. version, here's the continental version. But I'm watching the continental version first, friends. Let's
And
get right to the sassy one and go downhill from there. But
oh,
so they did exist, you know, a lot of those cuts that we just were rumored for years are now starting to pop up on some of these home video because they're digging them out of vaults and they're finding them and they're proving that they existed. So it wouldn't shock me if one of those fun little sub labels that we talk about picks this up and says, here it is.
funny you should mention that. That's why I love these classical films, because the IMDb info is usually a little more accurate. According to IBIM, a shot of the thrown knife hitting Magda's neck was actually filmed, but cut by the distributors in post-production upon BBFC request.
That would be, the British Board of Film Classification. Yes.
Despite the film's brutal theme, the only UK censor cuts to the finished print was the removal of visible topless female nudity during 2 of these sideshow scenes. The footage has never resurfaced in any print of the film, and unfortunately may no longer exist. So there was...
Or at the very least is not known to exist.
Right. Some guy has it in his basement, probably.
No, well, we make jokes, but that's possible.
It's possible.
Well, and not to, like, hey, I can't wait till we find this. It's just, in general, because film history and things, for decades, there was the Japanese print of what we call Horror of Dracula in America, just the first Hammer Dracula, has extra sequences in it.
Right.
Yeah, sure. Nobody can prove it. There was no pictures. It was just always a story.
Mm-hmm.
Half the print that's in the Japanese main film library, where it's been protected, they've kept that print for decades, got damaged by water forever ago. They've only got the last half. It took in the last maybe even 5 years where somebody finally got access to it, and they went, yep, that's got a minute and a half more footage in it. Wow. And that's why I have a Region 2 copy of that film, because that has they have that cut back into it.
Mm-hmm.
And you go, well, what's a few seconds? Meh, what's that going to do? It's part of it's the disintegration at the end, though.
Oh, geez.
So there was a rumor go, oh yeah, there's a scene where his hand comes up and claws his face off, and you go, yeah, sure, whatever. No, that's there, and it's cool. And I'm like, oh, this is good. I'm like, okay, that bit's there. That's new, I think. And I'm watching it. I'm like, oh, no, that's actually really neat. And it's that weird moment where you go, I just watched something that has been hidden for 60 years.
Yeah.
And up until recently, nobody saw, it was sitting comfortably in a vault. And every year they would take it out and somebody would check the film was safe and they'd put it back in the vault. Nobody would watch it. So you don't know when this is going to show up. You don't know what they're still finding because now there is this, movement towards, hey, what do we actually have? Where they're making, with all the streaming services, with all, even so with DVD and Blu-ray, all this stuff they keep digging and finding and digging and finding, where you never know what they're going to actually uncover. So it's entirely believable. If somebody maintained this at some point, it's entirely possible it'll pop back up again. Or maybe it won't. And does it matter? No, because it's still a fine film without it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. It's still a good film, but it's great to have those extra bits. And, with digital the way it is, you can take, you could have a brick on your desk and you could have all the extra footage and bits you want transferred to it, and that's how much it's going to be stored. So they can do this now as well with the digital restoring and that, because storage is hella cheap and it's a lot less shelf space. So if these films do die out, you still got the footage in multiple copies, probably. And it's look at Metropolis.
Yeah.
Look at Metropolis, how everybody thought the one cut, the one print was all that there was left. and then someone found a little bit of footage in someone's, I forgot,
So
basement or
I think
someone.
somebody in Brazil it was Brazil, somewhere in South America. So if it's not Brazil, I apologize. I forget the story then.
Right.
He just kind of raised his hand and went, "That's not the version I have."
Yeah.
There's another silent film too. It's one of the Buster Keatons, and I was just listening to it, and I forget which one it is. I don't think it's the General, but it's another one of Buster Keaton's main films where, not the Railroader. I forget which one it is offhand. Where basically just this dude like kind of raised his hand and sent an email to somebody going that the version you put out, it's not the version I have. And anyway, or just kind of didn't read he had to like finally they communicated again like years later. Sometimes this stuff takes forever for somebody to figure out, and then they go, I no, we've got a print down here that's got different footage in it, and it runs a different length. It was crap. I wish I could remember the name of which Buster Keaton film it was, because now I'm sure it was that. It was a deal where the guy in South America had like the original cut of one of these films, and like the version that they had found in France or what have you was like a different version. There was like an early cut of it, and then he tested it and he went, that's not working. This isn't working, and recut some of it. And that's the version we had, like the original version, not the recut version. He had like the new version, the one that actually got circulated. It was crazy. Right. And again, this happens with silent film that's almost 100 years old, if not more than 100 years old now, where we go, oh, there's no way such and such is, and they find it. We never, until somebody actually looks and they have which one is it? I think they've done like 6 or 7 of them now. They have a yearly event in the Library of Congress called Mostly Lost.
Okay.
And what they do is they go, here, we have this chunk of film. It doesn't have titles anymore, so we don't know what it is. And they fill the audience at this theater at the Library of Congress with people, and it's basically they're inclined, they tell them to do, if there's anything that you see that looks familiar, anything that would be a clue to help identify this, shout it out.
Right.
So if like a car goes by and somebody goes, oh, that's a 1921 Oldsmobile, blah, 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 that any little bit and piece that'll help them. And that's what they do. And they keep putting back together bits and pieces of our film history this way. And it's insane that there's still all this unidentified or unchecked, because from our perspective as a consumer, if you will, especially I think people that are less tied to film than we are, somebody who's a much more casual, where they just go, oh, they're on, and I'm not trying to degrade anybody if I say it like this. I'm not trying to be mean. If you just have Netflix and you have a couple of DVDs at home and you just watch stuff and you're happy, you probably think that everything that's in a vault is identified and digitized and restored, and why is it not just ready to look at? And then you start seeing how, money is involved and how people don't know what they have. And, even when they know what they have, it takes forever to repatriate things. Hey, there's a vault in Italy that has a copy of this film. Okay, we can get a copy of it. Sure, we'll get you a copy of it. And 6 years later, they get a copy of it. It's insane how these little bits and pieces can get tucked away anywhere. So who knows if this exists or not?
It may never for this film.
We'll probably get a Blu-ray at the end of the year. Now that we've spent 15 minutes talking about this, but
we've kind of
this is how I spend a lot of this is how I spend a lot of my time watching, reading, and going, okay, what just popped up here, and who's finding this, and what vault did this get dug out of? And hey, we've got these nice restored Georges Méliès films that are 120, 30 years old. This is part of what I do.
I mean, that's like Metropolis, though. That movie is practically 100 years old.
And they like doubled the runtime on that film.
They just recently, I was just reading up on it. They thought the final print, which I I love the soundtrack to it. I saw it at the Oriental Theater. I totally admit because my dad used to take me to see all the weird shit that they played there in the 80s.
Excellent.
And I saw the 84
The Marauder
version of
George,
Metropolis.
the
Yeah.
George Marauder scored version. Yeah.
Yeah, the George Moroder scored version, which was supposed to, at that time, one of the big deals, if I remember reading up on it, I may be off, was it had a few just extra bits of footage they had found
Right.
included in it. They had found like just a few extra minutes of footage. And now I was just, while you were talking and I was listening, I wanted to look up in 2008 in Buenos Aires.
Oh, Argentina.
Or
Okay. It was
Argentina.
in South America. I was wrong. I thought it was Brazil, but it's Argentina.
Yeah. They found a near complete cut of the entire movie for the first time in 2008.
And it runs like what, 2.5, 3 hours or something crazy
Yeah.
like that? Yeah.
Well, because that film is huge, and we may do a
Yeah.
spoiler room on it sometime. But you were talking about that, I'm like, yeah, they discovered, some guy goes in 2008. They're like, holy shit! And then there's supposedly another cut that is one complete cut that they found later on that survived some war.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff that's in a check vault.
Yeah,
because that was the last stop in the distribution area at the time. It's where they're fighting, you know, where it's similar to how they found the brain, Doctor Who, Enemy of the World and Most of Web of Fear.
Oh, sure.
A few years ago, because they managed to stumble on this gentleman that's done some digging around. Phil Morris actually visited some of these spots, and he was like, "Oh, okay. Well, we've tracked this to this spot, and then once he gets to that country, they're like, well, once we got it into this country, it rotated like this." And he's like, "Oh, okay. Well, where is? Oh, it's here on this shelf." Because that's where it stopped.
Right.
And instead of it going anywhere else or getting destroyed or anything, it just stopped there and nobody cared. So it just sat for 40, 50 years. And that's the same thing, because I think that Argentinian vault where they found the Metropolis is where I'm thinking it's the same place where they found the Buster Keaton footage I was talking about.
Yeah.
So a lot of this stuff, until somebody goes, "Oh, wait a minute," nobody knows.
Yeah.
And they're still digging stuff out of this vault and that vault and going, okay, we've had this thing sitting here for. That's.
Yeah, I mean, especially back then, someone mislabels something, somebody just tosses it in a can because they aren't going to bother with it, or
yeah,
you know,
Laurel and Hardy Battle of the Century. I'm going to try and keep this short. There's only a handful of Laurel and Hardy footage that's missing. The only short that's currently missing is Hats Off, and then there's a film that a long film that they appear in is Rogue Song, that they have cameos in. Battle of the Century was considered to be the best pie fight in movie history.
Oh yeah, yeah.
For decades, all that was known to exist was the footage that, I forget his name. There was I'm sorry, I forget his name, but there was a gentleman in the 50s that would take silent film and cut it down. He made like these compilation films. Robert Youngston, I think. So, and that was the only footage we had, was the cut down version of Reel 2 from Battle of the Century. And it's most of the pie fight, but not all of it. And then in the 70s, they found most of Reel 1. So we had 75% of the film. So the way the story goes, there was this film collector, thousands of film reels. He passes away. His family sells it off to a couple of other collectors, and this gentleman takes possession of most of this. And he's looking at the film cans and kind of sorts it out, because this is not what he does all day.
Right.
He has other things to do. So he's going through, he kind of triaged them, going, okay, I'm going to check everything before I get rid of it, if I want to get rid of it. But he picked like, okay, these are the ones I'm going to keep. These are the ones I might keep. These are the ones I'm going to sell. Blah. These are easy to find. Everybody has a copy of Psycho on film. Blah. I'll just sell them. So he sees the label and he sees Battle of the Century and he goes, that'll be the cut down version of Reel 2 from the thing. I'll look at it later. Years go by. 2-3 years go by before he has a chance to open it up and look at it.
Sure.
He starts watching it. And he's mostly kind of checking to make sure it plays and make sure the splices are intact. And it's playing out. And he goes, that part doesn't look right. It seems to be, I don't remember this part. But it's the pie fight. I don't remember that either. Huh. And then he gets to the end and he looks at the, because he's thinking it's going to be this cut down version that everybody else has. Apparently, at some point, the collector who passed away that he bought it from got the safety reel from Robert Youngstead made of the second reel to make the film from, the cut down version. And it got passed along and nobody looked at it for years.
Because they all assumed it was the cut down version.
Because he was just in his collection. He didn't have a chance to check it. And finally this guy looks at it and goes, huh, that's longer than I remember. Well, UCLA's been restoring the Laurel and Hardy's. I'll check with them. And he goes, hey, UCLA, I've got this thing. And they go, yeah, okay. And he didn't get a response. And he went, oh, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe everybody has this. And he ends and then another year or so after that, he's at a convention or at a showing or something like that. And somebody's talking about it. And he goes, no, I have that full reel. And the audience goes, and he went, wait, what? And then he said, again, I have this thing. And then all of a sudden people went, oh, we misunderstood. And so now it's like 95% complete as opposed to the 75 or whatever from before. There's like a 2-minute sequence at the end of Reel 1 that's missing.
Oh, yeah.
So, and they cover that with, some dialogue and, just a little noise and some pictures because they have pictures of it. And it's like, but it sat there in someone's collection for decades because nobody knew it was there.
Yeah.
And that's going to keep happening for a while as kind of things transition and turn over. So who knows what we're going to find in the next couple of years
and maybe there is a naughty cut of the Circus of Horrors out there. So who knows?
I guess that's the short version of what we're trying to
Now that we've discussed this for 15-20 minutes, the end summary of this whole conversation has been,
hi, welcome to Film History. Sorry.
There may be a naughty no, I love it, man. I love it. Your warehouse of knowledge is extensive and I love it. But we are going to wrap it up here for the night. So I hope everyone seeks this film out and takes a look, especially if you're looking for some interesting classic horror films, because this is a horror thriller that I think you should check out because it really has a more modern feel to it for the time that it was made, and it's tight. It's only 90 some minutes, and I think you'll enjoy it. So seek it out. And now this is where Doctavius here can tell you about the things that he does when he's not talking to us. So Doc, go ahead, license to shill.
Okay. So last week we started season 5 of Shakespeare Raw, and we started with Hamlet, and it was pretty awesome, even with the car accident that stopped people from showing up on Monday. No, it was still a good crowd. It just wasn't.
Yeah.
It was that sad moment where we're like, we're starting to see where's, no, everything went well. The way we cut that play down, there are only 2 female characters in it. I played both.
Hey, good job.
I had to be Ophelia and Queen Gertrude. It was delightful. No, it was a lot of work, dude. It was that weird moment where I was like being very serial.
Yeah.
The other side to this is for the last few years, we have played Monday through Wednesday at Best Place in the Pabst Brewery area of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and we still do that, and it's still a beautiful thing, and we love being there, and we love the fact that they haven't kicked us out yet. On the other hand, we have this year now added another show during the course of that week.
Ooh.
So not only do we have Monday through Wednesday, but we have a Friday show at Hawthorne Coffee Roasters on the south side of Milwaukee, because they have a large back room and they think that we're kind of keen.
That's awesome.
And we think they're keen too. So that was where I was Gertrude. So you have 4 chances now to watch our show. And in April, we will be doing Taming of the Shrew. We're going to try and make this as non-problematic as possible for the modern audience, considering the context.
What?
And I am working desperately to find what those dates are, because I didn't pull them up because I was unprepared.
Oh, I am.
But otherwise, the easiest thing to do, because I'm not going to find them in 2 seconds, is to go to Boozy Bar Productions on Facebook, and we will have the event there, and you can find out what those dates are. It's mid-April. Oh, I know a way. So it is going to be the 15th through the 17th at Best Place. That's the Monday through the Wednesday, and then the 19th at Hawthorne Coffee Roasters. We also have the Facebook. We have the YouTube at Boozy Bar Productions, where very slowly we're putting up some footage of the shows, some footage of Brian Bear's parody songs that he does for us. Brian is a very talented individual in his own right, as opposed to not, when he's just playing for us and then doing songs. He's a songsmith. He likes to do parody versions of songs for our shows. If we have 4 shows, he will write 4 songs. So he's our Weird Al, if you will. He also is part of Uncle Fergus's Magic Whiskey Band, which is playing this weekend. They played tonight. I didn't go because I'm here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No. All is well. I'm going to go tomorrow after the wrestling, probably. Okay. They perform pop songs as the Irish drinking songs that they were always meant to be. So they also are on the Facebook, and there's some footage up there. So if you're like, what does he mean by that? What I mean by that is you'll be listening to a song and go, these words seem familiar. And you'll get to the chorus and you'll go, oh, that's a Taylor Swift song. Oh, that's Freebird. Oh, but it sounds like a jig. So if that sounds appealing to you in St. Patrick's Day weekend, you need to go check that out.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Doctavius, for talking with me tonight on this interesting film that, again, was just a random pick because I was like, what's an older film about plastic surgery? And I was surprised to find one as way back as 1960. And I'm like, check that out. And I'm glad I did, because this is a lot of fun. And it's one I could see me watching again.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'm glad you were here to talk about it. And now I think we'll just say good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
I will count the good nights. One good night. 2 good nights. I'll stop. Did you, not to disrail this immediately, but
no, go ahead.
Count Von Count's Twitter account is just, the Count has a Twitter account, if you're not aware. 2,
I wasn't aware.
All it is consecutive numbers. So like one day it's like 1,526. The next day 1,527.
Oh, really?
It's awesome. And it's nothing, but it's delightful.
That is delightful.
What else would the Count do with the Twitter account?
Yeah, he counts.
I love to count the things.
They're coming out with another Muppet live action film, aren't they?
There's a Sesame Street movie coming out next year, and there's talk of when the Disney Plus streaming service kicks in, that they'll show on that.
Yeah.
So hopefully, because I want there to be more Muppet stuff, just because I'm concerned about the Muppet stuff.
Yeah,
but that's a me thing. Because there's always rumors back and forth, and people get pissy because we think we know what's going on. The internet, and it's funny because it's not an internet thing. This has always gone on. It's just the internet makes it easier for people to think that they know what's going on.
Yes,
because we can read a thing that somebody tells us, and we go, "Oh, this is what's going on," and then eventually somebody will go, you guys have no clue what's actually going on. And it's true, because we don't. We have this filtered version of something that goes through a thing where somebody interprets a thing as the way it is. And some people kind of know, and some people actually know, and some people have no clue and pretend like they know. And some people are honest about it. Like I watched a YouTube video not long before we started where this guy's like, hey, this is my hobby, and I am working with the information that I have because this is a thing I've been into for a while, and there's a lot of information we don't have access to.
Yeah.
So he goes, if I say a thing that's, this is my best attempt. And I'm like, most people, that's what they're doing. They're going, hey, this is the thing I think I know. This is what we're doing. This is the thing we think we know. But some of us are more honest about it than others, I think. And I don't remember where I start. Oh, because I was talking about like Disney stuff and Muppet, people,
right.
or you just movie stuff in general. People go, oh, I know what's going on, and this is the blood. Isn't it? It's horrible that so and so won't do this, and it's like, first off, most of these things are multi-million-dollar corporation type gimmicks.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
big companies. I work for a sizable company, not even a big company, and if you're going to sit and go, oh, such and such company is like this, it's like, that has nothing to do with the individual people that work there.
Yeah, exactly.
So you go to division, that will change. So it's like there's like there's a group of people. Oh, because I've been hearing this a lot of late, especially as I wish Disney hadn't bought blah. I wish they didn't have Star Wars. It's so sad. I don't like the Star Wars anymore. It's like, dude,
they've ruined Star Wars.
Dude, just watch your George Lucas ones and have a good time.
Exactly.
I think we've drawn a line. It's and I'm not gonna I'm gonna say a thing and not try to be mean about a fella I know, because he means well and I like him. He's a good guy in general. But I think what we're finding is there are Star Wars fans and there are George Lucas Star Wars fans.
Yes.
Because I have a buddy that was like, okay, I like Star Wars. Cool, you like Star Wars. Hey, the prequels come out. Nobody likes the prequel. Well, not nobody, but people have derided the prequels, certainly. Hey, these don't turn out as well. He defends the prequels. Oh, you don't understand it. These are the prequels for the kids. These are the Star Wars films for the kids at the time and everything.
Yeah.
Cool. That is a fair way to defend those films.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we're making films now for Star Wars. Oh, these films are no good.
Yeah.
Are these not the Star Wars films for the kids of today?
No, they're ruining it because it's all SJWs and it's they had to make her a female character, and I don't like how they killed Luke and yada yada
blah blah. And I'm like, I not even having seen them, I've been like, are you mad at Luke because you wanted him to turn out better than you? Because I know we didn't turn out to be much of nothing, but you were like, "Oh, Luke's this the other, not to completely go down this rabbit hole." And I think I may have said this before, but I'm like, realistically, you think you know what happened to Luke because there's all these comics and everything else. You've followed this character for years. The problem is, movie-wise, he's been in stasis since 1983. So you've had all this time to make up what you think happened and what you would expect would happen to him. And he turned out a little too close to you, and now you're offended.
Yeah.
Because he turned out to be the guy who went, crap, nothing I do is going to make this any better. I'm just going to go away and not do anything.
Yeah,
and that pissed you off because you thought you wanted your hero to be better than that.
Mm-hmm. And see, and I loved, and in all honesty,
made sense. Not having watched it, it just sounded like it made sense to me.
A mutual friend of ours disliked a lot The Last Jedi.
That's fair. I have a lot of people that didn't care for it.
He and I are on opposite fences of that, but he and I are also on opposite fences of Batman v Superman. So, I like that film. I'm not afraid to admit it. My name's Mark Krawczyk. I like Batman v Superman and some other DCEU films.
Haven't seen it, but that's fine. I'm happy for you.
Hi, Mark. Thank you.
I am glad you enjoyed it, Mark.
This is my AA meeting. Anyway,
yes.
So Batman v Superman and Star Wars Last Jedi are two films I do not discuss with our mutual friend.
Fair.
Our friends of 30 years, as we've known each other since high school. So all of us.
I suspected that might be the gentleman in question.
Yes. But for me, I loved the direction they took with it. And I actually liked Cranky Luke. So, I know you did.
Hey, get off my lawn, you Luke.
I know you didn't see it, but the Luke that they put in there, I'm like, I like that angle because that's not the angle that I would have figured they would have taken. But at the same time, I'm like, it kind of makes sense if you take into account the prequels and at the time when he was Jedi, his youthfulness, because at Jedi, his character was probably mid-20s, I think, by that time.
At best, yeah.
Yeah, within the context of the film.
Yeah.
So he had some more ideals. Well, now we have 50-year-old, 60-year-old Luke. 50-year-old Luke who's a little more jaded.
Luke that's been beaten down by life.
Yeah.
And again, I look at myself, I look at the people around me, and I go, this
sucks. Him. I'm leaving. I'm sorry.
That would be him.
Yeah, this universe.
We're going to cart up this power to you and realize that all of a sudden you're going to realize after you get all this that the people that ran this before you were not all saints.
Yeah.
You thought they were originally.
My nephew tried to kill me. Yeah, my nephew tried to kill me. You know what? I'm done.
Well, and again, I haven't seen these. Sure. It's not like anywhere I went. It was just,
you just got other things to do.
My interest is limited, and I don't have that kind of time. I figured I'd see them at some point because people would have them for me, and we just would watch them.
Sure.
But there was a Facebook list thing comment. I don't know if it came from Reddit or if it came from Facebook that I didn't post because I didn't want to generate the
flames.
Potentially, yeah. I didn't want to fire up like half of my friends because they're, But the argument was essentially that there's a Rashomon moment in Force Awakens or Last Jedi. I forget which. I think Last Jedi, because that's the one where you actually see Luke.
Right.
And it's the fact that Kylo and Luke and there's three different positions to see how that sequence happened.
Right.
And so there's the neutral position, there's Kylo's version of how he felt, and there's Luke's position. Mm-hmm. And Luke's position is essentially that he kind of had the same moment of anger he had when he faced the Emperor. And he went, wait, this isn't right. This is what the Jedi powers are driving me towards. I shouldn't be like this. Why am I angry now? And because he was angry, he dismissed it. Mm-hmm. And I went, if that's a logical explanation, I'm like, that makes sense for him. He would go, no, I can't do this because it's not working the way it's supposed to. Mm-hmm. So I'll just go, because I'm not killing my nephew.
Yeah.
Maybe he needs to be killed, but I'm not going to do it because no. And I'm like, that kind of changes a lot of that perspective. I'm like, that makes sense to me. If that's what somebody can pull out of this, there's some depth there. It's not like it's just this, whatever film. Good. They're still making solid films. Whether or not the actual execution of the rest of it makes sense, because to be honest, some of my friends were complaining about some of that too. That's a whole different argument. Yeah. It's the whole, I didn't like this because I have a reason, and I didn't like this because that was a girl.
Yeah. There's a lot of those
douchebags that were bombing Rotten Tomatoes because Captain Marvel is a girl.
Oh yeah. Well, now did you see the biggest conspiracy with Captain Marvel is they're saying that people who bought advance tickets are never showing up for their screening. Like one theater manager who chose to stay anonymous said that all the pre-advanced tickets they had, exactly 25 seats never showed up at each screening. So now there's this conspiracy that Disney is lying about the box office numbers for Captain Marvel. And then there's people saying, oh, Captain Marvel is going to lead the next 10 years or whatever, the next, phase of the MCU. And they can't because their character was so wooden. And And folks, you got to listen to our Captain Marvel episode where I come up with an explanation of why I think she was wooden. So boom. No,
I haven't seen it yet, so I haven't listened to it yet. But
no, that's okay.
Everything you say is a believable. The timing. I was in the theater the other day, but not for Captain Marvel. I watched old Doctor Who.
Oh, you saw the Tom Baker?
I went and watched Legopolis. Yes,
you did.
Because I went. It's an ad for the Blu-ray, but I'm like, I don't care. I want to watch Tom Baker in the theater. It was a weird moment where just they had the little intro, and then because it was a rough day, I barely made it there in time.
Sure.
Because traffic was horrible, and okay, they didn't start it yet, and then the theme music hits, and I'm like, I've been dreaming about this moment for so long.
A Doctor Who film on the big screen.
Where I'd be sitting in a theater and hear the Doctor Who music booming around. It's been a while since I watched this. Well, it's been a while since I watched everything but the last like 2 minutes of this.
Sure.
I've watched that regeneration so many times. But anyway, but yes. But even if Captain Marvel leads the next 10 years, which is debatable at best, who cares? Is she really that? She's an Oscar-winning actress. Is it miserable? It's like I will flashback for you because you are my friend.
Oh, by all means.
I remember being in my friend Henry's toy store, and and we looked and we said, "Oh, Ben Affleck has been cast as Batman," and I went, "Ha!" And then in like not even 30 seconds later, I went, "He's an Oscar award-winning actor. I bet he'll be fine." It's everybody's going to make fun because he was in this thing as a kid and this thing. He'll be fine. He's a good actor. This will be fine. It was over that quick for me. And how many people have never gotten past the fact that he was in some goofy film with J-Lo?
Oh God, Geely. Oh.
And now he's, he's essentially gone now anyway. So what difference did it make?
Yeah,
it's like, why are you bitching about Ben Affleck? Well, he's a good actor. And there's so many people where it's like, well, he did this thing. Why are you holding on to this?
Well, it's
people
not just
stupid.
It's not just that. I mean, I honestly think part of the reason why Ben walked away, though they don't say, I honestly think why he walked away from doing the solo Batman film was so much shit he got for Batman v Superman and so much shit he got for Justice League. Being an Academy Award winning actor and such, it's just like, I don't need this fucking shit.
Well, there's that, and coupled with that is I'm in a superhero film and I have to be in shape.
Yeah.
How many of the dudes are like, like Chris Evans was like, I haven't been able to just eat.
Well, look at
Chris Hemsworth, Hugh Jackman, where he's like, I'm this old now. It's so hard to keep up, to keep in this kind of shape, and where they're like, they wake you up every 3 hours to drink a protein shake and crap when you're on, it's like, it's not like they do like one and then 5 years later do another one where it's like, well, I got to get in shape for the next Wolverine film. It's like, no, they just stay in that shape. They're just tired.
Well,
they're in better shape than wrestlers, dude.
Well, and when they're in that shape too, they can only get specific roles. So like Hugh Jackman wanted to do for like 10 years. I loved it. Greatest Showman. He wanted to do musicals in that. You can't do musicals when you're buffed out, ripping the sleeves on your shirt when you flex. I mean, you can, but
it's that much extra effort at that point.
And you can't play the I shouldn't say you can't exactly play the character you want to play.
You can't be a schlub at that point. Yeah.
Right. He couldn't play P.T. Barnum in The Greatest Show and be ripped out like Logan.
I had fun with that film.
Which one?
I went and saw The Greatest Showman. I had fun with it.
I loved The Greatest Showman. I thought it was a fun musical. I'm like, holy crap. And my buddy Scott Menzel, he loved The Greatest Showman. And it got so much flack by critics, but there was another one of those where it was an underlying following where people loved the music and there were people who did really enjoy the movie, but you couldn't really come out and say that because you'd be, oh, well, that's stupid. That's P.T. Barnum and Circus and tortured animals. I'm like, that's not what the film's about. And
that historic, the whole, and this is going to sound funny coming out of me being the guy, who I was at some point, but because I had that's not historically accurate. I'm like, it's a musical. It's not a documentary.
It's inspired
Those are
by.
two different things.
Yeah.
Because again, I hang out with carnival people and I had it's not really. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm not going to argue that point because it's not. I know it's not dead on, whatever. But, and 20, 25 years ago, I'd be like, maybe not, freaking Hunchback of Notre Dame, Disney, fucking, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and based on how sometimes society works, Steve's being hypocritical because he didn't keep to the same thing that he talked about 20 years ago. I'm like, I changed because I'm a human being.
You're a human being. You've gotten older, wiser.
Well, I'd hope so. I'd like to think I've grown and grown wiser, but I can't claim necessarily to that. But I'm going to try and say that that's what the case is, or at the very least, my tastes have changed and other things have changed, so I could change my opinion based on how other things have changed.
Right.
So it's not the same as digging up somebody's, letter from 40 years ago and seeing what kind of D-bag they were at that point. And if they're still a D-bag now, totally different situation.
Exactly.
But if they were a D-bag then and they're trying to not be a D-bag now, maybe not give them so much, entirely crap because they're trying to not be a D-bag anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not that fond of Kevin Hart, but at the same time.
Oh, well, you saw the release today. It was like someone not threw a fit, but they made a valid point about social media going, why are there so many people talking about this when there were 49 people killed in New Zealand? But the news feed exploded, not with, sympathy and thoughts about the real world life, but everybody's like, oh, James Gunn's back on Guardians of the Galaxy, and Disney says they made a misstep and then I'm like, no. I'm like, on the surface that is, but I'm like,
I shared that.
Let's take a step back. Look at who it is. It's Disney. Look at how much they've been paying to social media lately. Look at how many people were saying they actually were legitimately going to boycott Guardians of the Galaxy. Look how many actors said they wouldn't be involved if Gunn wasn't anymore. This isn't them backtracking, saying, oh, we made a mistake. No, we really like James Gunn. He's paid for it. He apologized. No, this is totally a money issue.
Mark, this was the plan from the beginning.
Uh-huh.
That's when they said they fired him, I went, he'll be back.
Mm-hmm.
In my head, if I didn't say it out loud or on text, I went, this is a temporary thing so they can distance themselves, let it cool down, and they would bring him back.
It gets launched. It gets out there.
Expecting this from the beginning, and it happened. I am not shocked.
It gets launched. It gets out there. Everybody acknowledges it. There's flames. They do something to save face. A year later, you know what?
Though, unless there's something to feed those flames, they die off quickly.
Right.
So here's, and when I say this, again, I keep qualifying so many things I say, but I think it's necessary because context. A lot of things happen out of context, and people don't understand them. People don't want to understand them. People react because they don't have it. My context is, if someone is a D-bag, someone is a douchebag. I'm going to say it fully because it's quicker. It's not, but
that's fine. Go ahead.
The bourbon's kicking in.
Okay.
If somebody's a douchebag, say like a Weinstein, Harvey, fuck him. He's been a D-bag for a prolonged period of time, and it caught up to him, and now he's finally getting dealt with. Right. There are other people in our society who have been D-bags for prolonged periods of time, have unavowedly not wanted to stop being D-bags. And there are also people who had awkward moments in their youth, and it went away. The main thing, and that's when people get huffy about, well, we're rushing to judgment and blah, and this, it's like, well, even in the last couple of years, we've seen where people have had somebody come out and go, I accuse so-and-so of being a D-bag. And then so and so goes, we had an awkward moment. And if they're actually a D-bag, other people will jump up and go, I also had a D-bag moment with that guy. The one I kind of default back to is George Takei.
Yeah. Oh, that just was what came to mind when you said that.
Excellent. I'm glad, because that makes sense to me. Because there was a individual that came up and said, we had an awkward experience, and he went, yeah, we did. That was the one. I am so sorry that happened. And it's not like 30 other people, including somebody who he talked to last week, said, we had a D-bag moment.
Yeah.
It's different from, say, Kevin, what's his putts?
Oh, Spacey.
Thank you. Where up until like the week before, he was just still being the same guy.
He was still a D-bag at parties, yeah.
Right. Or doing, where you're like, hey, we're not friends. I don't know you, but cup check, that's not the same thing. And sometimes what you need is somebody to come up and go, okay, this thing you've been doing that you've gotten used to that is normal for you, it's not cool.
Right.
And some people will go, really? I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I'd gotten so used to doing it. It's just part of my nature now. And I didn't realize it may take them a month. It may take them 6 months. It may take them a year to go, oh shit. Yeah, you're right. And some people will just be that guy. I don't know any of these people. Harvey Weinstein's probably that guy that's never going to understand.
No,
he's so ingrained with, it seems like he's so ingrained. Allegedly, how many ever the text words can I put in here to make it safe? I'm not getting the spoiler room sued. Where you can go, yeah, this is just, he's gotten so used to this power and it's gone now and he doesn't realize it, and we need to fix that as a society. We need to, and there are so many people that are like, where did this come from? And I'm like, really? Most of those guys have had rumors about them for years.
Yeah.
And if, again, we're more paying attention to what insiders, quote unquote, say. So when that turned into a thing, I went, yeah, I've heard he's a D-bag for years. You probably went to say, yeah, we've always heard that guy's a jerk. And finally somebody busted him on it. So a lot of this is not news. But
it's news to the outside world. It's things Hollywood's known for ages.
And the other side of it now is it's getting monetized. And again, it's not a thing I've seen. And it's a thing that some of our other friends have mentioned and discussed recently, because I listened to it earlier in the week. But you get a situation like a Finding Neverland.
Yes.
And I haven't watched it. I don't have HBO, so I'm not going to watch it. So realistically, I don't know that it's any different from anything that anybody's ever made a joke about in the last 30 years of my life. The only difference being is that apparently a couple guys have come forward and said it very serially. And if that is indeed their reality, I'm so sorry for them. That sucks. But how is that, as one of my friends, when like the Simpsons guy posts, the Al Jean and those guys were, well, we're going to kind of pull that episode from the rotation. One of my buddies went, how is that different from the last 20 years?
Right.
Realistically, this is something we as a culture thought we knew, whether we knew it or not. It may not be, nobody could prove it. Well, so it became one of those things that just everybody talked about.
Right. Well, and it's one of those things too, though, that these guys, from my understanding, because I haven't seen it documentary either, and I'm probably not going to watch it. I got other things to watch.
Also,
honesty. It's not the fact that I don't care about victims and what happens is horrible. I'm a father. I have 2 boys. I completely understand. On the other hand, though, you've got to look at how this thing comes out, and it still feels hokey to me that these 2 guys who supposedly defended him 10 years later suddenly come out with a documentary that they use to monetize, to make money off of, potentially.
Yeah.
And they still, as far as I know from many people who've seen it, who even said, oh, well, Michael Jackson's a D-bag, I'm not going to listen to his music anymore. You go, well, what kind of proof did they show? Well, they didn't.
There's a little bit of that too, yeah.
There's hints there, and then people will say, well, there's other victims that don't need to show concrete proof. I'm like,
I don't disbelieve them, but at the same time, how do I believe them?
right,
So
exactly. And then you look out and then you get an article today to where they talk about, yeah, one of the guys, well, they said, oh, this is from the Mirror, so take it with a grain of salt. But,
definitely.
you
Daily
know,
Mirror, yeah.
the Daily Mirror. So, yes, totally agree that it's a trash mag. But
It's a tabloid, yeah, but
yeah,
still.
it still comes out that one of the guys is lying. And I'm like, now where's your reaction? Because, well, this is coming from an unlegitimate source. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, but at the same time, many people thought he was lying before.
And there was an article I read the other day where somebody brought up, hey, LaToya Jackson's been saying some of this stuff for decades. Was that something that she said because she was told to say it, or is that her actual reaction to events? Did she know something or did she not? And we really don't know. A lot of this is stuff we don't know, but we know. And that's the weird thing about sometimes the culture right now is that we feel we know things that we don't really know.
Well, the court of public opinion is so knee-jerk right now
There's a little
and
bit of that too, yeah.
immediate that it's
It can be.
and the problem with it is I'm not saying at all again that claims aren't legitimate. There isn't any basis for them. Not at all. I'm not defending horrible acts either way.
No.
But at the same time, it's getting easier for people who may not have concrete facts to try to get their idea across and make it seem concrete because there's so many people out there that immediately will jump and make their judgment and not be swayed because it would mean they might be wrong.
It becomes a, and sometimes it is that, well, I don't want to not side with a victim. And I appreciates that because that is a noble goal. And the problem at that point can be sometimes that you don't know who the victim is.
And it
And
delegitimizes legit victims is what it does.
also possibly, certainly. The one of the sides to that is, and again, there is this feeling sometimes that the internet has caused some of these things, and I don't feel that that is the case. I don't feel the internet has caused these things. I think the internet makes it easier to make these things happen very quickly.
Oh, right. No, I don't blame the internet directly. I think
Yeah,
the internet just makes it very easy for these voices. And I've said this before.
yeah,
The internet provides a way for the local town fool or crazy guy
yeah,
to have a voice and find others to validate his crazy thoughts,
yeah,
whether or not it's actually true, aka flat earthers, aka conspiracy folks about, oh, the moon landing was fake. You get the one guy who lives on the outskirts of town, oh, that's just Crazy Earl.
yeah.
Well, now Crazy Earl's got broadband. Crazy
Because
Earl finds a group that says flat earthers, and they're like, oh my God, look at all these people who believe the same thing I do. I can't be wrong.
because every town has a Crazy Earl. Yeah,
It's because every town has a Crazy Earl, and they've found a way to congregate and
yeah,
validate themselves, whether or not what they believe is actually true. Getting that validation is all they need. And then it's even harder to try to have a debate with someone without coming across as, well, you're siding with the creepy person. And I'm like,
yeah.
no, I'm not siding with the creepy person.
I
I'm
just
just saying we may need to take a step back and look exactly what's going on.
I just want to wait and get more evidence so I can understand this situation better because, you know, even in the days of the newspaper being king, you would have the story on page one, hey, so and so is a D bag. And then 2 weeks later on page 17, yeah, we reported so and so is a D bag, but so and so may not be a D bag.
Yeah, the person who reported the D bag actually was blackmailing the D bag for money, and yeah,
Yeah. And some and it's not always that.
no,
And a lot of these, and again, a lot of these cases that we're discussing, it's stuff that has been known, but not not like pushed for decades
Oh
in
yeah.
some cases.
Yeah.
Nobody has actually come up and said, hey, I'm actually going to say this out loud in front of people, as
Mhm.
opposed to whispering it to other people. Go, hey, watch your back around so and so. They're going to get you. If you don't go to a hotel room if they
Yeah.
invite you, because that guy will be naked
Right.
or what have you. Those are different from some of and a lot of the and that's what annoys me about some of this, because like you said, it detracts from actual victims when somebody comes up and goes, hey, I'm gonna be this guy now and I'm gonna accuse blah.
And
And it because there's always that person. No, I'm gonna say it. There's always that guy
mhm.
that as soon as they find out, well, so and so is lying, for them that negates everybody else that's made that claim.
Right.
That's oh, that guy, that individual may have made some misstep about Harvey Weinstein or Bill Cosby or whoever, and well, that they must be fine then, because that one person turned out to be not telling the truth, or
Right.
not telling the truth well enough, or couldn't prove their truth,
Mhm.
and somehow every other claim is immediately dismissed, and it's like, dude.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be the guy that says when there's no smoke when there's no fire, but sometimes when there's smoke, there's fire.
Oh yeah.
You don't get that many, you're not getting that many people, sure. Are some of those people coming and going, yeah, me too. I want some money. Yeah. But a lot of the me too is because that's how people have been treated, and it sucks. And I'm not going to lie. A lot of this stuff was new to me. And I
Mhm.
just, and the, is as much as it sucks, that's one of the best things about me kind of tuning into, performing more, because I got to meet some people that were not in my previous circle, where
Sure.
they would tell me, hey, the first time I heard one of my friends go, yeah, I got catcalled today. And I went, "Pfft,
Right.
that's a thing that happens in old movies. That's not a real, wait, that's a real thing yet?
Uh-huh.
Wait, that's a thing you deal with every day? Holy crap, that sucks. What's,
Mhm.
what? And then you go, what's wrong with people?
Yeah.
And then And a lot of I feel a lot of the negative reactions to things are where it's somebody that gets that moment where they go, "Pff, I've never heard that before." And instead of
Mhm.
going, "Really? That's your reality?" They go, "Pff, that can't be right, because I've never seen it happen."
Right.
And it's like, well, who cares what you've seen?
Exactly.
Nobody gives a crap what you've seen. You don't live the same life. There's plenty of times where I've done a thing and I go, crap, that was my white boy privilege kicking in. Shit.
Yep.
All I can do is just, and hey, that's my reality sometimes. It's just that
Mhm.
you get away with a thing, or not even, I shouldn't say get away with a thing, but there are things that we don't think about,
Right.
where you have a conversation with somebody else and you go, oh shit, this is your everyday thought process.
Mhm.
I had a conversation with my buddy that I'm going to the wrestling with tomorrow about, because uh, Kofi Kingston and WWE is kind of popping right now.
Yeah.
African American gentleman talking to my friend. He's like, yeah, he's not going to stick around in the main event scene too long, and this, and some of it's because he's maybe not ready for it. Some of it, and he went, he's black. They're not going to push him that hard,
Mhm.
because he goes, I go to the show. Most of those cats are white. They're not going to push a black guy. My friend is an African American gentleman.
Yeah.
So it's one of those deals where you go, this is how you're perceiving it, because this is your reality. And I go, we both went, it's not right,
Mhm.
but this is what you're seeing. And he went, this is what I see. And I went, and it hurt my heart. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie, but I went, that's not how I look at it, but that's because
It's
that's
perspective and experience. I mean,
and I'm like, because I've never actually looked at it that way. Because I even said at one point, I said, when I'm watching the show, I don't pay attention to the crowd mix that much, because why would I?
mhm.
crowd, they cut to the crowd, and I tend to go, "Oh, I'm gonna dink around on my phone for a minute, and then I'll watch when the match starts, and I'll go, he's not all wrong, and
No.
that made my heart hurt too.
Yeah, it reality checks and that always sting.
There is
But
a very distinct difference between what somebody's legitimately observing and, well, you're just being racist.
right.
I go, well,
Which then again goes back to your, the Finding Neverland though,
yeah,
where you've got two people who say they've observed this, but then you also have a huge amount of people are saying that's not the way it is. It got weird, but not like the way you guys are saying it. And then you're like, well,
yeah, which reality is the reality? Yeah.
which reality? I mean, because on one hand, and with the way society is fired up right now, these guys, hey, I'm the victim, they're going to jump to that. Right. That person's going to get more defense than someone saying, well, are you sure that's the case? Because that's just, you want to feel for the victim and you want to help them.
Yeah.
But,
And that's so much better than the, well, preview. Yeah. No, I'm not going to like protect you or defend you at all until you prove your case to me. I'm like,
right.
that was harsh. People have been treated harshly for a while. So I get that too. I don't want to, nobody wants to be that person, but at the same time, you kind of treat things with a certain caution. And I don't want to, the other side to this is, excuse me, from a personal level, I have had to go through this with somebody that I felt I trusted who got accused of a very gnarly thing, and I haven't seen them for years now because of that.
Right.
And it started with a social media, I have to call this person out because I don't think they're treating this seriously enough.
Right.
And I want them to get the help they need. And I went, huh? I'm like, oh, oh shit, this is not a joke. This is not funny. And it hurt my heart. And it became a thing. And yeah, again, I haven't seen that individual in some years. And it was one of those deals where, hey, here's the probation that so-and-so got. And I'm like,
yeah.
So I get it from a number of different perspectives, and that sucks because I don't want to.
Yeah.
But that's, it starts with that you can't take somebody's perspective for granted because their perspective's not necessarily wrong, but it may not be encompassing.
Right. Exactly.
Because again, to go back to my friend that I talked to, he goes, yeah, I go to Bucks games. I go to, we've been to brewery games. We've been, he goes, and this is what I see. And I go, ooh, that sucks. I wonder if it's like that anywhere else or if it's just here.
Yeah.
And neither of us have the perspective to say that because this is where we go and do most of the things we do. So it's like, well, we keep hearing that Milwaukee's this weird, still effed up segregation. Yeah, and when he says these things, he goes, it's not like they're trying to keep anybody particularly down. He goes, the people that are there because they have the money to be there.
Right.
I'm like, I don't have the money to be there necessarily. You're telling me the price for a ticket to go see this Bucks game was this much? I don't have the money